Hello. Hi, Byron. How are you? Hi, Hannah. Byron, I feel terrible that I miss your lives. I feel like I need more of you. Hey, Larch, how are you? Been a minute. Thank you. They're velvet, I think, right? That's what that is. This is the month that we're going to be talking about the heart chakra all month long. So I went through my closet and I pulled everything green at all out and put it on the wall. So I'm obviously not wearing all green all day, all the time, but it's making for fun dressing myself adventures. Uh, it's kind of easier because I don't have to go through my entire closet, but it's also kind of challenging because then I've got to match things with green. But I like green. Um, and it's actually really fun to see because when I pull all the pieces out and I put them on the wall like that, I can see all the shades of green that I have. And I found that really interesting last month. I did it for the solar plexus. I pulled all the yellow out or anything with yellow in it and put it on the wall. And I realized I thought I was wearing like a bright yellow or like a sunshine yellow, daisy yellow, like that kind of thing. Yeah. And I realized all of my yellows are actually quite muted. They're very not pastel or anything like I don't know. Yeah, they're very muted. And same thing with my greens. My greens, I have a couple of more um bold greens. Elegant in my velvet overalls. Thanks, guys. The heart chakra is in part about being able to receive compliments. Yeah, yep, yep, yep. Thank you. Thanks for helping me work on my heart chakra. So I've got mudras today. We can talk about mantras today. We will talk about the general development of the energy system. And I'm also going to drop my book a million times because I'm so excited about it. Byron, are you still in here? Because I published a book. I published a book, and I'm super duper 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 excited about it. Hey, Natalie, how are you? Chocolate Frost. Will I show you around Oregon? I don't know. What parts are you in? I'm not a terrible tour guide. I know this area, the whole Pacific Northwest from Washington down. Actually, the whole West Coast. I spent most of my life out here, or I always return to here, even when I travel. Thank you for the follow. Not there yet. I guess it depends on what you want to see. If you want to see like touristy big city stuff, I'm probably not the person to show you. If you want to disappear out in the woods for weeks on end and see the real cool parts of Oregon, yeah, I could be up for that. Still in California. How's everybody's heart feeling? How is everybody's heart feeling? Let's see. I saw somebody on TikTok the other day with a little feature that had like a tag here on their screen that told you to like go to their webpage or buy their book or what have you. I was going to figure out how to do it, but maybe not. Some comments in this live were filtered to protect the community experience. What? Who said what? I don't have filters, guys. I don't have filters on the live. Larch, feeling anxious. I hear that. Anxiety is a combination of our solar plexus as well with the heart. Solar plexus, heart, and root are often associated with anxiety because our root is about fear and trust, feeling safe. Our solar plexus is about our ability to have some level of control or strength or power in our lives. And when we don't feel like we have that, and when we feel unsettled in our root, then anxiety starts to show up. Sadness, we carry a lot of that in our heart, and that can drip down into that anxiety, right? If we're experiencing or carrying a lot of grief, then it makes us feel like we don't have quite as much power in our lives, or uh, taps into those lower areas of fear. Badass Blind Woman says, not gonna lie, this month is gonna challenge me. I already know it. I was so challenged last month. I did not realize. I mean, I know my solar plexus is kind of wonky, but boy, oh boy, when I first started wearing all that yellow last month, I was like, I was like, this is way too much. uh, hey, Thumper, how are you? I hope your day is magical as well. I hope you see the little miracles all around you. It's one of the reasons I like living out here in the woods, is because we have so much magic all around us, right? You can see it in everything. I feel like there's never a day that goes by out here that I don't stop in awe or wonder, right, at how glorious it is, whether it's the sky or the stars or the mountains or the trees or the water or the birds, or the birds eating my cherries in the morning. So, well, luckily, for those of you who are nervous about working on your heart chakra this month, I do have a lot of soothing practices. Actually, both Larch and Badass Blind Woman over there, guys, on YouTube. Thank you so much for showing up over on YouTube. I would like to offer you, we can start right now with a mudra, to help for the heart chakra. And there's actually two that I find are really, really good for soothing, for settling the energy in the heart chakra, as well as the other things that make the heart feel unbalanced. JG Co 88. I didn't celebrate 4th of July yesterday, did I? Were you here in my neighborhood? Did you see the cool shit that we were doing here in my neighborhood? No? Or do you just have an out of balance solar plexus, or out of balance third eye that causes you to come into somebody else's space and make assumptions about them? I don't know. Usually that's what happens when our chakras are out of balance. We don't recognize that we are making assumption or operating from our own belief system that oftentimes has nothing to do with somebody else's reality, right? That's where we show up in judgment, which is a heart chakra out of balance or a wounded heart chakra. A underactive third eye will cause us to not have the foresight to see somebody else in their truth, and often project our truth onto them. It's a really interesting thing to see our chakras, right, working in real time. That's why I love these lives, is because we all show up in our balance or imbalance, right? And a lot of times we spew our imbalances over other people, or we try to pull energy from other people so that we feel more balanced. Us human beings are so good at siphoning energy off of other people through things like manipulation or insults or backhanded compliments or judgments or those kinds of things, right? Or even just arrogance coming from a place of like, oh, let me tell you what your truth is. That's a kind of blindness, right? That indicates a really out of balance system. And to be honest, when we're talking about it, it's not from a point of saying you're bad, you're wrong. It's just from a point of reflecting it so that we can be aware of it, right? If we don't have clear mirrors to reflect these things back at each other, then we may never see these things, right? Unless we're willing to see it in ourselves. And that can be really hard to acknowledge unless we have safe places around us to go, for somebody to go, hey, that's a projection. Or hey, that's not actually what the situation is really going on. I've never really understood it. I mean, I do understand it, but I find it really interesting when I have come into contact with people who, or done it myself, right? Because I've done this too, projecting what I believe to be true. I know you did that on purpose. I know that your intentions were bad. I know that you tried to hurt me, right? These come from our own beliefs and our own narrative, and usually, again, has very little to do with what the other person's really experiencing. Because when we show up and say, "I know," I have no opportunity to receive. But when I can show up with curiosity and willingness and say, "This behavior, this thing didn't feel good to me," or "I'm worried that you're perceiving it this way," right? We can have the communications. I really like nonviolent communication for that, like finding the words to articulate something without it being an accusation or without it being weaponizing our emotions. And modern in our modern day, I think we're really, really accustomed to weaponizing our energy so that we can steal it from other people, because a lot of us are disconnected from our higher sources of energy, from our grounded sources of energy. And a lot of us are gummed up in our system, all kinked up, all squeezed with tension, trying to hold ourselves together. And in reality, we're making it harder for our energy to flow more naturally because we're living in places like fear or judgment or shame, right? And these will spew out onto our life everywhere, all the time, all the time. Why does that pattern keep patterning? Why do I keep ending up feeling like this? Why do I keep ending up these relationships? Why does the same lesson keep coming back to my life? Because it's your energy asking for realignment. It's just something that's not healed yet. And or it's not aligned, let's say that. I want to stay away from even the word heal. It's when we bring it back into alignment, there's an ease that comes with that. Okay. Badass fine woman. Oh, something inside me wants me to completely skip out on this month to shut this off and go play. So that's interesting. You know what though? Isn't play healing, right? Isn't play one of those things that's softening to the heart, that's gentle on the heart, that's supportive to the solar plexus as well? All right, I said I'd give you a mudra. I did say I'd give you a mudra. So let me show you my two favorite mudras for when I'm feeling my heart feels out of balance, or when I'm feeling that kind of fear of not being good enough, or it being too scary, or or when that grief that I carry starts to well up inside of me, right? And hey, Glitterbee, how are you? So here is the first mudra. It's called the Padma mudra. You guys may have seen this one before. I feel like it's relatively common. I've seen it before, but I've been doing mudras for a while. The Padma mudra is a pretty simple one. Feel free to adjust as needed. Thank you, friend. For the Padma mudra, you bring the base of your hands together, the wrists together, and then bring the sides of the thumb and the sides of the pinkies, leaving the rest of the fingers open. This is the Padma mudra, like a little lotus flower. We hold that at the heart. Now, this is the part where, depending on your physical capability, right, where you hold this, maybe a little higher or a little lower. I encourage you to find what's comfortable. If you need to pull it out away from the heart a little bit to make it comfortable on your wrists and elbows, that's fine. Remember, you are your guru. You are in your reality, in your body, and only you can meet it with curiosity and willingness. Only you can meet it with gentleness, right? In this way, in this situation. So it's not about forcing, and we don't want to put too much tension, right? I can't hold something for very long if it's tense. So if I bring my hands together and I got my fingers really stretching out like this, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt quickly. So feel free to find the comfortable spot between tension and no intention at all, right? We hold our mudras with intention. So the Padma mudra, holding at the heart. Remember, you want to hold your mudras for at least 5 minutes to to start feeling the mudra. The longer you hold them, the better. If at any point when you're holding a mudra, it starts to feel uncomfortable or starts to create tension, feel free to adjust a little bit. And if it just feels right to put it down, then just put it down, even if it was just 3 minutes. Some of these things, it's okay to work up to them, right? Again, meeting ourselves with curiosity and willingness. If you'd like to add a visual to the Padma mudra, I always just imagine source energy flowing in, kind of like a waterfall, right? Flowing in, or rain, flowing into your lotus. And then it fills up the basin, and trickles down into your heart and goes straight through and out the back. I find the visualization matched with breath while holding the mudra is the trifecta of soothing heart energy. So we got your Padma mudra here. Inhaling, imagine water source energy, rain, waterfall, whatever it is that you want to imagine, how you want to visualize it, falling in, flowing into this mudra, into the chalice created by this mudra, and then flowing directly through the heart, a channel for clearing that energy. I always imagine it cascading down my back too. It's such a soothing. As you sit with this mudra too, I encourage you to sink into gratitude, the simple kind of gratitude, just gratitude for the opportunity to hold the mudra, gratitude for the opportunity to breathe today, gratitude for the feeling of, a gentle breeze on my face, just the simple little things, right? Gratitude for now, gratitude for this, gratitude for the energy, gratitude for having a heart that does the cool things that the heart does. Obviously, the heart is about we carry forgiveness and grief in our heart. We carry rejection, abandonment in our heart. Shame can be held, caught up in our heart as well. But the purpose of the heart is love and balance. Love and balance. And love, right, is not a one-way street. It's not something we just give to others. It's something that we cultivate within ourselves so that it can overflow to others. We cultivate it within ourselves by loving ourselves, by valuing ourselves. And yes, I think there is a difference between saying I love myself and I value myself. I say that because that was my experience for a long, long time. I would tell you, I mean, I've always loved myself. I like who I am. I'm weird. I'm quirky. I'm funny. I like me. Uh, but did I value me? No, really not. Not in the same way that I do now, that fills my cup now. Not in the same way that soothes my heart now. So again, this is the Padma mudra that we're using, the lotus mudra. Gratitude for the strength my heart has had and what it has moved me through. Yes. I like to have gratitude for the because my brain likes these things. I sometimes will sit there and have gratitude for the defibrillator cells, right? The defibrillator cells that make up your heart that all work together in tandem to generate the energy field that surrounds your body. It's cool to think about all these little tiny cells working together, right? To make your heart do that. It's an electromagnetic generator. It creates an energy field around you. And yes, it's something that we can measure. It's something that we have. I don't know what the tools are called. I'm not that I'm not that area of expertise, but we can measure your energy field. And what's powerful about working with the energy field is it goes through every layer of the self. Your body, your physical body, your emotional body, your energetic body, mental body, spiritual body, all accessed through things like mudras, breath work, mindfulness. I'd love to hear if anybody else has gratitude they'd like to express as well while we're holding our Padma Mudra, receiving love from Source, receiving that energy from the universe. Thank you guys for the gifts. Thank you guys for the love. Hey, Christina. Thanks, Alan, or is it Alien? Thank you, Alien. Padma Mudra. We are sitting with our Padma Mudra to balance the heart. The Padma Mudra also helps to clear away the attachments of the ego, right? Our ego can really anchor into our heart. Almost sometimes I feel like the ego drives from, yeah, from somewhere behind the heart, whispering things to it. Weakens ego grasping, clears out grief, reminds us that there is an infinite supply of love, right? That vibration that flows through everything in the universe. Encourages self-acceptance. It encourages receptivity. A lot of us struggle, some of us may be really good about showing love to others, giving love to others, but maybe not so great at receiving love. So this is one of those practices. To me, it's a easier or maybe safe way to receive love rather than having to interact with an actual person, because sometimes we have anxieties and sometimes we have other things going on, or we don't have safe people in our lives to receive love from. So when you do a practice life like this, where you're imagining that source energy flowing into this mudra, flowing through the heart and cascading down your back like a waterfall, it's a really good opportunity to just receive that love. There's nothing you have to do. There's nothing you have to do to earn it. There's nothing you have to change to earn it. Callie, giving love to a ghost? What ghost? Are you being haunted over there? Using the ancient technique of mudra and the energy work through the use of mudras to clear out the energy channel that moves through my entire system. The same kind of energy body that there are a lot of things in the universe, right? Generate. Using these tools to balance them can be really effective, really powerful. That asked why, when you say, curious, do we ever really want to get rid of grief? Isn't grief a sort of gift in itself? A gift to let us know we loved and lost. I don't think that we have to. I mean, again, my philosophy and the things I teach in here is not really to get rid of anything, right? You're not trying to amputate. You're not trying to push away. We're learning to hold the things that we carry. And by holding them, by carrying them, right, we actually lighten the load a little bit versus dragging them around or letting them hang off of us, or trying to fight with them. Trying to fight with anger or fear is not really going to help it get better. Fighting with grief, telling yourself you shouldn't feel these things or it has to go away, is not going to really help ease the experience of it. I know you guys have heard me say many times before, depression is a lover who sleeps in my bed. Why? Because it's when I'm in my bed, when I go to sleep, it's through my dreams, it's waking up in the morning that I often feel the heaviest weights of grief. Yeah, sometimes throughout my day, but a lot of times I'm running around and doing other things and my mind's busy, doing whatever. But when my mind and heart and energy settle, a lot of times I experience that grief that exists down below my consciousness, right? That still lives in my body, that still says, I'm not, yeah. So for years, I tried to get rid of that. For years, I tried to push that away. I tried to kick it out of my bed, but it only became a struggle, right? Elevated protector, the end of the day is crying time. Yes, you can relate. But it wasn't until It wasn't until I started laying in bed with depression and saying, "You can be here. You can't keep me in bed all day long. You can't uh, burden my mind with horrible images of terrible things. Let's set some boundaries." I set some boundaries with depression, with grief. But ultimately, the most powerful thing was just accepting it and realizing that it was something to hold and could potentially have a gift inside of it, right? For some reason, it makes me think of um, cashews. Did you know that the cashew nut grows inside of a fruit that is extremely caustic? It's really poisonous. It's got some like really toxic oils on it or something. You have to use gloves while harvesting it, and they have to you got to be careful with raw cashews because sometimes they can still have some of that on it. But inside is this delicious, soft little gift of the nut, right? Of a cashew nut. Like we see these patterns echoed micro, macro, everywhere in the universe. Just because something on the outside doesn't look like a gift or doesn't feel or seem like one, sometimes there's something on the inside that is really valuable. Yeah, cashews are valuable. Do you know how many raw desserts we make cashews with? With cashews? The cool shit you can make with cashews? Glitter bee. Some people do day drinking. I do day crying. Ugh. Padma Mudra. Callie, I'm gonna go ahead and mute you. You don't seem interested in engaging with what we're doing in here. No, I'm not gonna block. That's okay. So again, we are hi. For those of you who are new here, my name is Reverend Deborah. I'm an interfaith minister, a movement facilitator, and your shenanigan shaman, dubbed by my lovely TikTok community here. And this is our CAYA space. CAYA stands for come as you are because authenticity is the purest expression of you. And just like any other space, right, that is hosted for an intentional purpose, like a classroom or a church service or even just a gathering in the park, we cultivate that is by asking people who cannot be personally responsible with their energy or their words to leave the space. I mute you because you're welcome to come back and you're welcome to hang out, but the chat is a privilege. Thank you. And today we're working on the heart chakra. This year, we are doing what I'm calling our Inner Light series. Hey, Trikind. We're doing our Inner Light series. In every month, we go over a different a part of the energy body. In January, we did the aura. In February, we did the koshas and the sheaths and the elements inside the self. Then we worked on the lower chakras and the earth chakras, minor chakras, and now we're moving all the way through the chakra system. June, nope, that's last month. July is the heart chakra. So we're going to be working with tools to balance, align, heal, mend, whatever it is, whatever word you want to use for your heart chakra. I encourage everybody this month to wear as much green as you possibly can to help support balancing your heart chakra. Thank you for the follow, friend. Mm. And if you're interested in receiving tools from this month, if you're going to be joining me for these Saturday classes or grabbing, tools for my content, I encourage you to either just grab a journal, use a journal and keep track of the things you're learning, or go to my shop on Patreon. I Move with Change on Patreon and on TikTok and YouTube. And you can find what's called an Inner Light Map. That is a short little PDF download. It's like just $5. So you can download this thing and you can print off as many copies as you want to. And you can use that to track your energy body. You can use that to track the mudras and the mantras and the tools that we use by recording what the tool is, when you used it, how it felt, and whatnot. Yeah, I could have made a huge encyclopedia or a huge, super complicated workshop that gave you all the information about all the chakras and all the possible tools for every single chakra. But the reality is that's the encyclopedia. And you can go to Google, you can go online and find books, you can find that information all over all over the place. What I would really like to do is encourage you to find out what is aligned and for you within those tools, right? Within this information. So you're welcome to, like I said, grab yourself a regular journal, but if you want something that's kind of pre-made for you to track the tools and track your energy, my shop on patreon.com/move with change has an inner light map. What's that, Christina? Wow, the chakra is one I struggle with, and this is my birth month. Ooh, badass blind woman already said the same, already said similar of going, I don't know about this month. Shan, you like mudras? Haven't seen them in a long time. Namaste, friend. I love mudras because they're a very simple and effective way to address your energy body. What's beautiful about the energy system is it's actually really easy to access, right? I feel like we are so concerned with the density of these things, like I want to change my body, right? And we know how to change our body with like building muscle and changing diet and whatnot, and we've learned how to do that on a cultural level, on a wide scale level. We learned how to do a lot of those things. But when it comes to aligning or balancing or changing our emotional state or our triggers or our internal unconscious beliefs, right, or our energy system, we don't really know how to access it, because it's ethereal. It's not something we can grab a hold of and shape with our hands, like it's like our bodies sometimes are, right? Or not quite as, yeah. Mudras are really powerful because we can affect, or I should say, the energy body, even though it seems hard to access because it's ethereal, there are so many tools to access it because it's ethereal, because it goes through all of the things. So things like wearing green, right? Your heart chakra is green. And I say it is green, not we like arbitrarily picked the color greens one time in the past to say the heart is green. No, the heart resonates at the same frequency, at that same energy or the same level as green does, right? So it's echoed throughout the universe. The color green is a wavelength of light. Same through the chakra. Badass One Woman, does that mudra both assist in balancing the front and the back of the heart chakra, yin and yang? Yes, absolutely. That's why it's one of my favorites. The Padma mudra addresses both the front of the chakra by, again, bringing that source energy, bringing that flow in through the lotus of this mudra, and then channeling it through the heart and letting it flow out the back. You can do that with visualizing, right? The energy coming into the flower through the heart and cascading down the back, or you can simply do it with breath. Just imagine inhaling, thank you, friend, and allowing energy to come in through the heart from this flower, feeding in through the heart, and exhaling and letting it release out the back. Just your intention like that, you're very welcome. I encourage you to be mindful in these practices, right? We've probably all heard like take a deep breath kind of deal. But when was the last time you really took a deep breath and felt how that breath adjusted your system? Several breaths, big, deep inhales and exhales, right? We are so not used to experiencing the subtleties of our system that I encourage you, especially this month as we're sitting with the heart, because it is such a prominent part of our systems, that I encourage you to sit with these practices and really sink as much of your attention into the practice as you can. Some of us are used to having very scattered brains, right? And so I always say, just bring that pendulum, realign, bring it to center as many times as it takes. If you're sitting here just breathing with your mudra and your mind is suddenly worried about something, okay, I hear the worry, but not right now. Come back to listening to the breath, feeling the heartbeat, noticing the way the heart rises and falls in your breath. And then there's a sound over there and you're like, what the fuck was that? Oh, shoot. Okay, I'm here. Bring it back as many times as you have to, right? For me, sometimes it's like herding cats. But meditation is a personal practice. The more you sit with it, the more it will resonate within you. It's not about perfection. It's about being present with the process. And it's about being mindful enough to notice, oops, my attention is somewhere else. Bring it back to your intention. If your intention is to sit in meditation and receive benefit from this mudra, then I want to leave my attention on that intention as long as I can. And anytime my attention wanders this way, wanders somewhere else, I bring it back. That's mindfulness. And the more you do that, the more you train your mind to be like, oh, when you're wanting attention, we're going to focus that attention. Your brain will follow suit eventually. Try kind. Yeah, no problem. You can always send me a message. You guys can always send me messages. I try to get to all the messages, unless they're just people being obtuse. Right. I'm like, well, I can choose to engage or not. Good breakdown. Thank you, Stampede. It's really helpful for me to use visuals. I really, really, yeah, I interpret the world through visuals, I guess. And one really powerful visual that has helped me understand mindfulness on a very simplistic and applicable way that I can put into every single thing in my world, right? Is I know a lot of you guys have heard this. It's my 4 pillars of mindfulness. So bear with me. First, your intention, right? Your intention is a guiding light. It's the star you hang out in front of you. This is the visual process for me that really, really helps me get through mindfulness, apply mindfulness day to day. My intention is my North Star. My attention is my compass, because my compass keeps me aligned with that star, right? Yes, my attention watching the star, but if I'm not literally watching the star, how else am I watching the star? With my compass, okay? This aligns my ship or my vessel with the direction I intend to go, right? If my intention is to do the dishes or to sit with a mudra or to get to work on time, I need my attention to be focused on that task, or that task might not get done at all if, this sets me on course, and this keeps me on course. As I'm on course, all sorts of things are going to happen, right? There's an entire ocean around me. That's life. Life is happening all around me, and there's not much I can do to control it. What I can control is where my attention is and my intention, right? With the intention I've chosen, and where my attention goes. And so when I'm on that journey, anything that I meet with curiosity and willingness, because I have the opportunity to be flexible, to receive something, to learn something new. If I meet the things that come up with judgment, guilt, shame, fear, I'm going to be out there fighting every single breeze that comes through, right? Like, no, I can't have anxiety. No, I'm busy. What if all these pieces were just crewmates on your ship helping you get there, right? Energies that you actually need, even if they're not doing their job well. Imagine having a pirate crew of untrained pirates who don't know where they're actually supposed to work, who don't know what job they're supposed to do on the ship. That's how our energy bodies, a lot of us end up with these energy bodies that are very kind of discombobulated. You have a crew, you have all this energy, but it's being used over here to shame you again and again and again, or it's used being over here to attack other people so you don't feel so insecure, right? It's being used in these ways that aren't really aligned with your system and with the highest, I don't want to say highest, with your system's purpose. Friend for life. I want a pirate crew. This visual is what helps me understand mindfulness in a really applicable way, in a really practical way, and not just mindfulness, but also helps me better understand my emotions, better understand my belief systems, better understand the unconscious programming that's way down deep in there that is making those decisions. Let's say, I had experiences during my first 6 months of life that told me that life was really scary, or it wasn't safe to be in my body, right? Physical trauma or something like that in my infancy. That can make your root chakra, the energy that's supposed to be grounded and make you feel safe, help you feel safe. It can cause it to become misaligned. It goes somewhere else and does something else instead. So the energy that's supposed to otherwise be balanced in your root chakra, making you go, I'm safe to be a human. This is a safe place to be, right? Versus when we have those early things go on, it will write into your energy body, not just your energy body, but into your nervous system, into the unconscious processes of your brain, into your emotional triggers, that you are not safe. And so you will treat the world as if you are not safe, or as if the world is not safe. And you will look at the world and through that belief lens. How do you rewire that? You rewire that with simple practices here and now. I have tried for my most of my 40 freaking years to align these things, because I had a lot of misalignments when I was growing up. Plus, we grow up in a culture that oftentimes misaligns us on purpose for the sake of harvesting our energy and using us as consumers and all this kind of stuff that we do. But it's really been, I used to do the big sweeping things. I used to think that I needed like some hard hitting workshop. I thought that I needed like, all of these, I needed to travel somewhere else. And I did. I traveled. I did big sweeping things to try to change things, to try to heal me. And they never quite hit. They never quite made it. And I felt like I just kept ending up in the same place over and over again. No matter how much I ran around in the outside world looking for a fix, I just kept coming back to the same fear and shame, guilt, grief, right? And we ask again, how do we access something that's so intangible? I can't touch my emotions. I can't bottle up my feelings physically and put them on a shelf somewhere to deal with later. And every moment they're breathing through me. So where do my emotions exist? Do they exist in the past? Do they exist in the future? No, they only exist right here. The triggers in my system, where do they exist? Here and now. So everything that you need for your healing, every misalignment, every moment of fear, every moment of trauma, every moment of joy and all this other stuff, or made you feel good or not so good or scared or happy, they all still resonate within your system, because this is how your system is designed by life, by your experiences, and they become written into how you interact with the here and now. That's that piece of now is all you have, right? Time doesn't exist. We won't get too far down that rabbit hole, but the concept is really just to say everything you need, what's really real and tangible right now, is right here and now. Is right here and now. And if you can access, and how do you access it? Now we know where it is. How do I get into that ethereal space? I know that to build muscle, I got to use, weights or do workouts to move my body like that. Do I do the same thing with my energy system? No, because it's not the same, right? My body is very material. My body is very dense. My body's very dense. But we know that the majority of what exists in our universe is not nearly remotely as dense as your body. Yes, we humans are some of the densest things in the entire universe. So how do we access that energy body? How do we access it in the here and now? I found through my lifetime of working with the energy body since I was a kid, and working with these tools as I got older, right? Learning about these things, learning about mindfulness and psychology and the other intersections of them. It is by aligning my intention and my attention that I can see these things more clearly, that I can access these things. This is like if you had two eyes, you do have two eyes. Both of our eyes did two different things, right? We're constantly doing my intentions over here, my attentions over here. We're trying to multitask. We're doing our dishes, but we're thinking about what we got to do in another 20 minutes. And then we're worried about yesterday. And then there's grief in my body from 20 years ago and all these things, right? My attention, my energy is being pulled in all these different directions. And when we've studied as well, when our minds are splitting our attention, nothing gets your full attention. Mindfulness is the practice of giving all of that resource, our attention, which is a finite resource, to the here and now. Because if you want to access your emotional body or your triggers or your unconscious system or your energy, they only exist here and now. And when our attention's wandering off this way and wandering off that way, we're not going to feel the little bit of anxiety that starts to creep up, right? Until suddenly we're really upset. Mindfulness, for example, has given me the ability to, yes, I used to road rage. Many of us do. I used to road rage plenty. Mindfulness has given me the ability to feel the tension in my brow and in my throat, to notice my jaw clenching and my shoulders pull up and my gut get hot. All these pieces that happen when anger erupts. I'm on the road, I'm driving, somebody cuts me off and drives absolutely insanely, right? My judgment is they are not being safe and I feel suddenly unsafe, which I know is also rooted and going to be exaggerated in the sense that I already don't feel safe, right? So still working on it. So what happens? All these different triggers occur in my system to let me know that my defender is coming out to protect me. Because what is that energy trying to truly do? What's the intention of that energy? It's to keep you safe. And if you think, or if your energy, or if your pattern is to, you have to yell to feel safe, or you have to curse at somebody, or you have to push somebody to feel safe, then your system is going to do that over and over and over again. It's going to trigger unconsciously. Thank you, my body, for trying to keep me safe. But now that we're a little older than like a 2-year-old or 4-year-old or whatever, maybe I can try to use some more mature tactics. I won't be able to use more mature tactics. I won't be able to use different tactics if I'm not even aware of what's happening. How many times did road rage come up, grip you, and do the thing? And then you were like, ooh, wow, that was really embarrassing. I can't believe I did that. Or you sent that nasty text to somebody, or you like made some snide comment. And you're like, I know the internet, we love to do that on the internet because we feel the anonymity. It feels safer to do it instead of actually feeling, like, oops, maybe that anger was a little overblown, or maybe it was unwarranted, or maybe, and then we feel shame or guilt or what have you. And if we can't face that, then we can't acknowledge it and we can't apologize for it. We can't take responsibility for it, or we can't forgive ourselves for it. Holy moly. These patterns just get all wrapped up in each other. And it becomes tangled sometimes, like a tangled mess, right? How are you going to untangle it? If you got a knot full of things in here, are you going to untangle it by going, God, get it out? No, the way you untangle, I like untangling knots. The way you untangle is to take thread by thread, moment by, like, oh, that one's goes under here. Oh, and this, oh, here's the end of that one. Okay, maybe I can go like this. That's how we actually align our energy systems. That's how we actually heal become aware of these things that are happening so we can make the choice in the moment. It's not about getting rid of anger. Anger has a purpose. It's there, right? It's there for a reason. And it's doing its job for you. Nobody 90, can you untangle my knots? You can untangle your knots. You can untangle your knots. We can receive tools and insights, right, from others to learn how to do these things. But ultimately, this is why I say you are your own guru, because only you can really access those knots. You can have someone act as a mirror and help you do that, but only you are the one who has to build the trust. You are the one who has hidden away parts of you that won't be looked at, or you're too afraid to expose to others, right? There are so many things within us that no one else can reach. Okay, I missed a bunch of comments, so let me catch up here. I had this experience this morning that made my system react. I'm so grateful I was able to stay present through it and become conscious of what was happening and able to calm my system. Yes, because if I on the road rage comes up, it grips me, right? And I'm like, here we go. What's my choice that I have? I have the choice to let anger drive the ship and throw my bird up and scream obscenities out the window, or if I'm aware of it happening, I can make another choice and go, well, wait a minute. Is it really going to keep me safe to start screaming and cussing at people? No, actually, that might even make me more unsafe. So maybe I'll take some deep breaths and acknowledge that I felt unsafe, but remind myself that, look, I'm actually not in an accident. And yeah, that was scary, but I'm grateful I'm okay. My kid's okay, everybody else. And then I can even, if if I feel like it, I can even wish them well and say, I hope that they are okay too, as they continue driving wildly down the road. I can shift it by the little choice, right? Katerina saying thank you to your body was powerful to witness instead of shaming it for feeling upset. This is one of the biggest, again, huge, this is the last 4 or 5 years for me. Admittedly, for a long time, I had a lot of information about this stuff and wasn't really ready to implement it. I was still shaming myself, I was still forcing myself, I was still pushing myself, I was still treating my inner self like I treat my physical body, right? We got to build muscle, we got to get strong, we got to push through things. We got to fight for it. We got to scream for it. We got to run for it. We got to no pain, no gain. That's not how the inner space works. And when I was doing that, all I was doing was re-injuring the parts of me that didn't feel safe. I was scaring, right? Re-traumatizing the parts of me that felt shame and guilt when I continued to shame and guilt myself over and over again. And this is not to encourage shame and guilt, right? It's the opposite. And it felt so ridiculous. It felt so, I can't, the other words aren't there. It felt so ridiculous. The first few times I started just going, it's okay, you did good. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't as you imagine that you hope to be someday, but you did good. It could have been worse, right? Thank you for wanting to protect me, anxiety. Thank you for carrying the weight of my loss, depression. Thank you, fear, for reminding me to keep myself safe. I invite you here in this moment, especially as we're working with the heart chakra this month. I invite you to put both hands on your heart, however you want to do so. Just bring your attention into your heart. And I invite you to thank your system for something. Genuinely thank your system, not the little snide, like, thanks for being a jerk. No. Take a moment, take some big, deep breaths as you're doing so, and offer yourself a genuine piece of gratitude for something that you've otherwise judged. Thank you to the part of me that feels like I need to yell when I'm feeling unheard, when I'm angry. It might not be pretty. It's not really how I want to be or who I want to be forever, but it's my system trying to make me heard, trying to get me heard. Doesn't feel good when I do it, but I know it's my system trying to satisfy a need. And if I keep denying my needs and keep denying my truth, then I'm never going to find it. I'm never going to make peace with it. If I want that healing, that alignment, then I have to be able to look at the parts of me that are broken and hurt and scared and hold space for them without judging them. And that's really hard when we have the programs or the narratives in our mind about judging ourselves and shaming ourselves for feeling angry or for feeling scared. I'm going to try to catch up on some messages while you guys are all thanking yourselves. Birdtrude, nice. I just did this the other day, almost getting into an accident. Detected inactivity. Yes, I'm so. We're not doing anything here. Hey, Monica, thank you. Callie, I'm a BHT and my client has impulsive behaviors, and so I'm trying to assist him in that. With like especially neurospiciness, right? And trauma can cause neurospiciness. Hey, Joy, how are you? Song of Joy. That impulsivity can seem really big and difficult to manage. And again, it's really important to not expect it to happen all at once, because mindfulness or awareness kind of trickles in. It's like a slow focus. right? It's like running through your day without really seeing the details, and then the next day seeing a little more detail, and the next day seeing a little more detail, and some days going blind again, and then another day suddenly seeing all the detail, right? Do you know the feeling when you catch a rainbow in the sky or a star at night that just grabs your attention and you suddenly go and you absorb every molecule of that color? You can feel it in your body. You can feel it the way that it soothes your brain, the way that your eyes link up with it, right? There's something else about it. That's mindfulness. That's that really in the here and now. Thank you, friend, that we can access through mindfulness. And that being able to access that, that's where light is. That's where reality is. That's where, okay. Colleen, welcome in. Just catching up, guys. I don't know if I missed any important questions. If anybody has a question, and welcome, Joy Ginger. Um, if you guys have questions that I miss, please feel free to add them again or to comment again. Not like repeatedly, don't hit me with all caps and the same question over and over again. Give me a second to get through my thought. But if I miss your question and it's important, please make sure that you comment again, because I do have two platforms. I'm on TikTok and YouTube, and I just don't always see them all. Thank you, Esoteric Eric. It is Heart Chakra Month, so I'm going to be wearing as much green as I possibly can. Bob Marley, infinite stillness. It is. It's only here in the present moment, right? Thanks, Bob Marley. Hi, Patrice. Welcome in. Thank you. We are talking about the heart chakra, and we're also talking about the chakra system entirely, right? I feel like there's a lot of information, anecdotal information, or important information that you can go find online about the chakra system. But there's also things that I think are easily looked over or maybe not really included as much. Age that our heart chakra starts establishing. So, our heart chakra, because it's the center of our system and it's the source of that electromagnetic energy field, your heart technically starts its development from birth, along with the root chakra. But we talk about the heart being settling in to its habit, to its pattern around the ages of, let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5. So around like 5, 6, definitely by 7, most of us are up here in the heart. 7 is the age when our brain kicks in the ability to understand more complex relationships, and that engages the heart to understand, like, how, me and Susie can be friends, but Susie and Gail can also be friends. And when Susie and Gail hang out, it doesn't mean that I'm excluded, right? Those kinds of feelings start to create the patterns in our hearts, and the ways we relate to ourselves and to our friends and to the world, right? Those are our first really experiences of building relationships. And before that, we have other relationships too. But at first, it's very egocentric with, pretty much just parent and child, right? Baby and mom, a lot of times, because they're so attached in those early stages, and then expanding a little bit more and a little bit more. But our brains can't quite conceive of other people's relationships outside of ourselves, because our brain is still very egocentric when we're little. So by the age of 5, 6, 7, you're going to really start to see the child who is establishing the heart chakra pattern. And that can continue, it will continue throughout your entire life. Your system keeps evolving throughout your entire life. But this usually settles by about 11, maybe. Once you start to get to that preteen stage, you start to see the heart chakra settling into, oh, this is how I feel about myself, and this is how I understand relationships. Then we see teenagers who start to get really clicky, right? And really like they become pack animals. And that has to do with the throat chakra, finding alignment in others that share your truth. It'll also belief systems in the third eye chakra. By the age of 12, most of the kids, most of us are working in these areas up here. After 12, up into the what is it? I forget the operational thinking, something operational thinking, higher operational thinking that we do in the later teen years and up until your early 20s. About the mid freaking 20s. Your brain is still developing until about your mid 20s. And I've heard recently that with studies on neurospicy brains that it may even be longer before we settle in to these patterns and our brains stop doing the initial development. During that time, that's when your energy body is aligning and figuring out its patterns. Those patterns, just like when you learn to chew your food or walk, become background patterns, right? You don't think about every step you take now as you did when you were learning to walk. So when your energy body learns these things about relationships, about emotions, about beliefs, about how safe or not, or generous or not the world is, they're going to be written in just like walking. It's going to turn into background programming. These become your emotional patterns, your triggers, your beliefs about the world that remain unexamined until they either create so much problem in your life that you have to look at them, or you choose to do the work to look at them. So we can talk briefly if you guys want to. We can go over the chakra system and which chakras develop at which stages. Let me catch up on a couple of messages here. Yeah, Katie. So that's a big reason why I teach what I teach and the way that I teach it, because it explains how early trauma changes who you are. And it's not just about trauma, it's about every single experience you have. In psychology, we call it the enculturation process. Everyone goes through the enculturation process because you walked through the gate and decided to be a human. You went through an enculturation process, unless you were born into the woods and raised by wolves, actually. But even still, you would receive the wolves enculturation process because it's how your body and your energy system learn to keep you safe, learn to operate in this reality. So think about this, right? Let's say that our soul is ethereal, is something that comes into and meets our body, right? Consciousness, whatever you want to call it. We arrive in these meat bags to experience this life, right? But my meat bag is not born of previous lifetimes. It's not born of any other lifetime except for this one. And it's a new little squishy, bouncy meat bag, right? It has to learn, it has to adjust to the environment. And there's all these mechanisms for it. Your gut flora, right? The enzymes that you create in utero based on what mom is eating, the emotional patterns that you learn through the mother's experience as well as through early experiences in life, right? The beliefs of your culture, these things that are written into the subtle things we say, into the ways that we eat dinner together or not, into the, going to school and going to work, all of these things that we take for granted as like, this is just how life is, are actually just a product of our culture in the here and now. Some of it, yes, can be rooted in long old tradition. Some of it can be super, super, super new. But your body and your energy system is new in this life, and it has to figure out how to keep you safe, right? Its basic job is to keep you safe, is to eat, is to sleep, is to protect you with those emotional things, right? Or by teaching you to use your fists to get what you want. Let's say the root chakra develops for the first 6 months to a year or so. That time, your energy system, all it's doing is saying, am I safe? Right? Am I safe to be in this world? Is this world a safe place? If I'm born into an environment that generally gives my system, not my brain is not even fully online. My brain is barely online. My brain doesn't understand time. My brain does not really have the capacity to build memory because it doesn't understand time in the same perspective. It It doesn't understand object permanence. That means if I'm not seeing something or experiencing something right here and now, it doesn't exist. So if you leave an infant and walk out of the room, that infant does not recognize that you exist outside the room. That's why babies like peekaboo, because you're literally disappearing your face because their brains cannot perceive that you are still there. Object permanence doesn't happen until that within that it does happen in that first year or so, right? That we learn whether or not it's safe to be in this body. Uh, then so let's say your experience was not safe. What happens? Then your energy has to adjust. It can't stay in the root chakra that says, I'm safe, I'm grounded, it's good to be here, we're all good. Let's move up to the sacral chakra and start getting our needs met, right? If we have a message down here in the root that says, I'm not safe, the energy has to do something about it. But the root chakra is not a doing something about it energy. It's our roots, it's our grounding. So instead, the energy body moves that energy up to the sacral chakra. The sacral chakra says, I feel. What does an infant do when it has a need? It cries, wiggles, makes sounds, right? Feels something, expresses that reality that it's not, that it's out of balance, right? That something's happening. So let's say again, root chakra said, I'm not safe. So the energy body, the brain of the baby is relatively unconscious. It's not like the baby learned to cry to get its needs met, right? That's there in the unconscious programming of the body when we're born. So it moves up into the sacral chakra and says, "Wah, please, someone help me. I'm feel wet or uncomfortable or cold or hungry or I don't know what's going on or that light is too bright." Doesn't matter, right? Baby cries. If the response of the environment they're in is to then be taken care of, have their needs met, right? If they're responsive caregivers, then what's the message they're going to get? If I cry, if I ask for help, someone's going to come help me. And that's going to build a sense of trust with your caregivers as well as a sense of trust with your reality. So if something scary happens and then you cry and then the energy is soothed, it goes back down into that root chakra. I am safe. Okay. A lot of us didn't, a lot of us skipped some of that, right? Maybe even had the cry it out method used on you, that kind of stuff. So then you're here in the sacral going crying, hey, hey, is no one listening? No one's here to meet my needs? Shit. If I'm an infant, I can't do a lot about that. So I stop, sometimes crying, or I cry myself to sleep or hurt my throat or whatever, bloodshot eyes, crying. That's going to put the message into your belief system, into your energy patterns that say, doesn't matter if I'm feeling safe or not. If I have a need, nobody's going to actually come and help me with that. It's going to put in a really foundational piece that the universe is not going to meet your needs and that people are not generous, people or the universe or the culture or what have you. So when you get to the age of 2 or even earlier, depending on the messages in your system, then you go to your solar plexus. And the solar plexus says, I fucking can. I can go get that. I can go do the thing. For me, I was an infant who was put through the cry it out method. So I was put in a crib and turned off the lights, and I had to just cry until I gave up crying. And then I got old enough. Actually, I shouldn't say old enough. I started walking around 9 months. And apparently before that, I was crawling. Before I could walk, I was crawling myself out of my crib. So all of that energy moved up to the solar plexus. Same as with if you'll see a child who is struggling with those foundations, a lot of times will be more aggressive in getting their needs met, in taking things and pushing around because that energy is so much energy up here in the solar plexus because I'm not safe just being here in my body. And if I just ask for help, nobody's going to meet my needs. So I'm going to go make sure that I get the cookie that I want. I'm going to scream until I get my needs met, right? That's actually my system keeping me safe. It's trying to help me. It's trying to support me. Again, culturally, we get shut down from there. Maribel, you are helping me see how I move through the chakras. Thank you. You're very welcome. Thank you guys for the follows. Badass Blind Woman, I'll answer that question really quick. I wanted to move through the stages here. This could explain over functioning, Correct. This is why I teach the energy body in this way, because when we understand how it develops, we go, oh my gosh, no wonder I get loud. No wonder I feel fear. No wonder I have this anxiety when this and this happens. Why do I have an anxiety when I go to the grocery store? Well, feelings of lack, feelings of shame, feelings of fear, not feeling like my needs are going to get met, having some insecurity around safety and comfort. So feeling shameful that I'm buying myself something that feels comfort and maybe frivolous, right? Or afraid that my card's not going to work randomly. Have you ever had those anxieties? You're like, where the did that thought come from? Why would my card not work? But here I am standing in the grocery store ready to check out. And I'm like, what if there's not, no, what if my card doesn't work? I'm like, really? These just old unconscious, this is the stuff. I always call it, the energetic farts or belches of your system. It's your system saying, ugh, this energy is out of alignment. It's not meant to be out of alignment. And so it's going to keep off gassing until you go, wait a minute. Why is it that I'm having this unfounded fear that my card won't work when I go in the grocery store? Or why am I shaming myself for getting myself a little something fun and nice or what have you? Right? Those questions, those indicators are usually your check engine light to say, there's a rabbit hole to go down. There's a thread to follow. When we follow those threads, yeah, we end up in our early traumas. But how those early traumas actually operate in the here and now is the magic of it. Because when you recognize that they are alive and well in your energy body, everything you need to heal is alive and well within you now. Every trauma, every fear, every bad experience, and every good one is alive and well within you now. You don't have to go anywhere. When we learn to access the energy body, you can touch all of it. You can get in touch with all of those things. It's really fucking powerful. That's why. Because it I almost said saved me or healed me, but I'm not healed. I'm not done. I'm sharing with you guys what has been most profoundly impactful on my journey, on my process, because I've been doing this on purpose for most of my life. The environment I was raised in, I knew wasn't good. I could feel it then. I knew it then. I went to therapy on purpose when I was a teenager because I was like, can we have different tools for this? Because this shit does not feel good. I don't like it. Went to college to study human development and wellness across the lifespan for more than 12 years, plus other workshops and things, plus studying my family's lineage of energy work for so long, as well as becoming an interfaith minister. If you're curious about my experience or my qualifications or certifications, if you like to see those things, they are on my Patreon page. I Move with Change on Patreon. I've done a lot in my life to sort through how we heal because I was afraid that I couldn't. And I didn't want to hurt people the way that I was hurt. Right? And it took me a long time. I shouldn't say that. I see that's like shame and guilt right there coming out in the way that I express that. In the last 4 or 5 years, I have made huge changes unexpectedly by recognizing that the simplest practices are really the ones that are most effective. By realizing that it's not about making strides and leaps and bounds. It's not about healing everything right now. It's not about being perfect. It's about being present with the process. But that one piece, present, that's the most important. And we are sold this idea of mindfulness as something is super complicated or not for you or cultural appropriation or only for expert gurus or, only if you're this kind of religion or not this kind of religion, right? But mindfulness is simply the practice of being present with what's happening right here, right now. And you can do that everywhere. Hey, Ree, how are you? You can do that anywhere you choose, but it's especially powerful when you do it with your emotions, because then our emotions are the kinds of things that are written in, again, like learning how to walk, like learning how to breathe, like learning how to chew. We forget, we don't think so hard about them anymore because they're just patterns and the things we do every day. So, hold on. So when we bring awareness to them, our attention to them, we give ourselves the opportunity to make a different choice, right? To do it differently. Have you ever tried to, let's say, retrain yourself for the way that you write? You get so used to writing, but I want to write my E's differently or draw my twos differently, right? I want to write the number two differently now. I used to do this. I've done this before. And it takes some time. It takes mindfulness to go, oops, I wrote the old way of a two. Let me do it again. Those little tiny moments of, oh, that emotion came up. I feel it. I see it there. Okay, what do I want to do with it? This is how you make those shifts. Trust is built in the tiniest little moments, not in the huge sweeping things. To build trust with yourself is to give yourself the opportunity to heal and align these things, to hear yourself. If you're constantly breaking trust with yourself or pushing yourself aside or trying to destroy ego or trying to do these things where you're like, I deny that this is even true, all you're going to be doing is pushing it back into the same corner that it's going to come back out at you at. Elevated Protector. I used a spreadsheet to track imagery, matched body signals, made discoveries about my patterns. Nice. So again, I have an inner light map. It's a $5 PDF download. Got several pages on it that you can track your energy body, you can track your patterns, you can track your emotional states, and you can use it to keep track of the tools that, like mudras or mantras or things like that, that you use to help with those things. And my hope is that if you follow along with us here for the rest of the year with the Inner Light series, if you use that map or just a journal to track these things, that by the end of the year, you'll actually have an idea of those patterns. Like you're saying, you discovered those patterns, because when we see them, we're like, oh, it's just a pattern trying to keep me safe. It doesn't mean it's not, I don't have to attach such a story or an identity to it, right? Noidic, how do you, NOIDC? You say, I hyper focus on my patterns and it's really hurting me. Remembering to give yourself grace as well is really important. I was one of those people who had my nose to the grindstone trying to do self-care and self-healing because it was rooted in fear that until I was healed, I wouldn't be okay. And that was probably one of the most insidious messages that was in my system, that was in my programming, that said I had to be perfect. I had to be done healing to be okay. And the idea that healing was a whole lifetime of work was terrifying to me, because I was feeling so much fear. I was feeling so much shame and guilt and these other things that are written in to the background there, right? So learning to, I don't know if you were in here earlier when we were talking about it, but learning to give yourself grace, right? Instead of being obsessed with changing the pattern, when you notice the pattern, try simply just saying it's okay. Try simply giving yourself a hug about it and being like, wow, you're real angry, you're real sad, or, oh, we did the same thing again. Darn, we keep tripping on that same rock, on that same relationship. Man, I keep ending up in the same kind of position with the boss at, job, whatever it is, right? Laughter medicine is really good. But really, one of the most powerful things that I've given to myself in the last 4 years is to, instead of shame, to cheer myself on. And it feels really weird at first. For example, the example I like to use is that just a handful of years ago, I was using substances as a crutch. I was really using a lot, right, of it. You just bomb my live? Child is over there. And obviously I was using it as a source of shame and guilt every single day, but I was also using it as a crutch to just deal with the pain and the grief and the fear that I also had, right? So I was conflicted all the time in trying to do those things and trying to carry both those things at once. And it was one night when I was terribly inebriated, and I was, couldn't even fucking see straight. And I was feeling that guilt coming up. And instead of meeting the guilt with more shame and fear and anger, right? Yes, at first it was a little bit facetious, but I went like this. Good job. You only had a 12-pack today. You could have had a 24-pack. But when I did, it was one of those moments where you have that spark, I guess, something different happened in that moment. And I stopped for a second and I went, wait a minute. Actually, yeah, good job. It could always be worse. You could always do worse. Does that mean it's a justification for doing things that aren't good for you? No. And I'm not saying it's a justification to continue doing things that aren't good for you. But when you meet yourself constantly like this, there is no opportunity to receive anything. If we can dare to love ourselves, even when we're broken, even when we feel fear, even when we feel angry, even when we feel ashamed, it builds trust. It creates the safe space most of us are looking for in other people or in other external things. Oh, I got to go to church to get that safe thing. Oh, I've got to go have the partner to have my safe thing. Oh, I've got to heal my relationship with my parents so I can feel safe again. Actually, safety, the root of safety, is within you. Because if I feel unsafe, it doesn't matter how safe the situation or people are around me, I will still perceive them as unsafe. So I have to rewrite that programming. Reparenting is one way to talk about it. Yeah. Um, Sometimes I like to take the perspective of, what would my, what would source say? Not just reparent, but like, because my parents were not we're not really great at parenting, as many of us, and I'm doing my own fucking up parenting too. But the ideal, right? The perfect. What would I really hope to receive if I was scared or angry or stupid drunk or whatever the heck else, right? What would I really need? Somebody to scoop me up and pull me in and rock me back and forth and say, "You are perfect just as you are. I'm sorry you're hurting. I love you. And I'm going to keep loving you no matter what you do, no matter." Most of us need love. That's it. A safe space. And it feels silly to give it to ourselves because we're taught that it's silly. We're taught that it's selfish to take care of yourself, right? But in reality, one of the most powerful things you can fucking do is wrap your arms around yourself, close your eyes, rock yourself, and just actually speak softly to yourself. And if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything. This is somatic healing, because this is what we get as infants, as babies. And if you didn't get this, you can rewire your body by doing it right here, right now. Why? How can I do that? Because I'm not a baby anymore. Because the baby that was hurt or scared or needed comfort still lives in you as an energy pattern. Super Elena. Since I've been single, I've hugged myself goodnight every night and told myself I love you. I became celibate after I went through a trauma 4 or 5 years ago or something, whatever it was. And it has been the best several years of my life because I'm actually building a relationship with me. I'm spending all my energy, not all my energy. I'm still a parent, still whatever, still teaching here and doing the things, but I spend way more energy on giving myself a nice bath or cooking nice food for myself, right? I used to, yeah. There's a difference between selfish, selfless, and self-centered. I encourage you to find self-centered because ultimately you are self-centered because you exist in yourself, right? You are self-centered, but we are taught to be not self-centered, selfless, or selfish. But self-centered values myself, fills my cup so that I can overflow onto others. Okay. Natalie, I'm catching up here. Even as a baby, you were breaking out of the system. Heck yeah. I was a tree climber too. Mary Bell, I took a walk in the rain holding my little self and I felt the generational trauma let go. When we are mindful about these things, we can actually feel the experience, right? We can actually sense these shifts occurring. one of the most profound things is to, the first time you pause when an emotion is coming up, instead of letting it just spew all over your partner or all over somebody else or all over your day, whatever, the first time you catch that part of yourself and you're like, it's like magic. It's like, instead of the emotion owning you and taking your ship and driving you, right? Suddenly you're able to hold it for a second and go, oh, when you hold it, then you can do something about it, right? If it's that fear, if it's that anger, look, I'm already holding it like a baby, right? Because so many of us have these like really early traumas. Suddenly that fear comes up, or that shame comes up, or that desire to be held or needed comes up. And I'm like, hi, baby. I know it was hard back then, but we're not there anymore. Look around, check it out. Hey, do you want to go lay in the hammock with me? Yeah, that anxiety I'm feeling, that deep rooted sense of something not being okay. Let's go rock ourselves in the hammock for a little while. A couple minutes in the hammock can offer me somatic healing. And not because I did something huge, not because I just healed my inner child, but because I took a moment to honor that it existed and hold space for it. Sometimes those are the most powerful things you can do. Again, we don't always have to change it. You're not supposed to force a baby to stop crying, right? You hold it. You give it comfort. You meet its needs so that it decides to stop crying. Hey, love, how you doing? Okay. So you asked, Natalie, about planets that rule the heart chakra. Planets that rule the heart chakra, Venus, duh. All of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, which one is the one that rules the heart chakra? Venus. Venus rules the heart chakra. Let me pull up my thing on all the associations. I don't always remember all the associations. Venus, and then the signs, the astrology signs that rule the chakras. If your astrology sign, astrology signs ruling the chakras means that with those signs, if you have those signs, you are more likely to be doing work in that chakra. For example, Virgo and Gemini both rule the throat chakra. I have a Virgo sun and a Gemini rising. So there's a lot of throat chakra work in my life, and it manifests externally as well as internally. So for the heart chakra, typically Libra and Leo exist here in the heart. Sometimes we can say Cancer is associated with the heart as well. Again, these systems are malleable and shifting, right? We don't have the exact number, the exactly 7 astrology signs to match the things perfectly. And our astrology is our constitution, which is very dynamic and unique. Hey, thanks, Nina. Hi. Kelly, how do I know mine? These are the kinds of things, right? These are the kinds of things that you can go and Google. You can go and Google like which astrology signs are associated with these chakras. Or if you're a Virgo, you can go, Virgo rules what chakra. It's why I don't put a lot of energy or time into like creating things to show you guys, to give you guys all that information. I'll totally, share the little bits that we're working on it. But ultimately, you can go and Google a lot of the like anecdotal fact, like these factual things about it, right? Yeah. Congratulations, Kelly. I'm glad you're here. I was in one about 4 or 5 years ago, and it took implementing these tools and using these practices to get myself to a place that I am now. I didn't expect to be where I am now after what happened. Yeah. So I hope you stick around. Yes.
Where's the duct tape? Because I need it for the project.
In that yellow bag.
Okay.
Thank you guys for the gifts. So, let's see. Nina, did you just look yours up? Like, oh no, wow. It can be really helpful, right, to understand like what your strengths are, so to speak, or what your challenges are. In terms of how your astrology affects or is interacting with your energy body, I really like to look at it like this, right? Through the lens of child development, we understand that children come in with a temperament. The argument of nature versus nurture. Like, do we have some kind of personality or temperament when we're born? Yeah, we have a certain energy. And that is what is sourced through or understood through astrology, numerology, human design, whichever one of those lenses that you want to use, or multiple, to look at your constitution, right? This is your temperament. These are the ingredients in which that you were made with. And those are going to uniquely interact with the world. Again, as a Virgo, right? A lot of the work I'm doing in this life is about the throat chakra. And about communication, about truth. And these things are really important to me. For somebody else who's working with a different chakra or who has different challenges in their lives, as a Virgo, the highest truth, one of my biggest challenges is feeling like I need to be at the highest truth and have at the highest truth, the perfectionism thing. But learning to, I know it's one of my challenges, right? So I get the opportunity to work on it in that life and really learn to balance my throat chakra. Whereas somebody who has more energy in the solar plexus, your work in this lifetime is going to have a lot to do with balancing that chakra, balancing your solar plexus. Fellow Virgo, hi, Olivia. So yeah, my brain is having a good time this day. What up, Cash? Perfectionism is so hard. It is. And it's an opportunity for us to become experts in compassion, right? It's learn to become really good at acceptance. Thank you, friend. This is where I came up with the curiosity and willing piece, right? Because a lot of times will show up with shame, judgment, guilt, condemnation, right? The Virgo narrative up here is very, very strict. Learning to meet my mistakes, perceived mistakes, learning to meet myself, including my broken parts and the parts that I don't think are perfect, with curiosity and willingness was one of the most difficult but most powerful things that I could do. Because the truth is if I feel like I don't like this part of me, if I don't feel good about the anger and the way that this happens, I'm going to judge it. And the truth is it's not genuine for when anger comes up for me to say, "Oh, I love my anger now. Yeah, it's really great. I love it." Or to be patient with something. If anxiety comes up and you're so over the experience of anxiety again and again and again, the truth of what you feel about the anxiety may be shame or frustration, right? Or being annoyed. So then double denying, right? You want to double deny your emotions. Anxiety is there. Shut up, anxiety. You shouldn't be here. Or knowing I'm not supposed to talk to my anxiety that way, then I turn around and go, "Oh, I love you, anxiety. Yeah, it's so good to have you here." That's not genuine. I'm double denying myself. So then what do? What if I just went, "Wow, it's here. Okay. Am I annoyed? Yep. I can acknowledge that too. And I can just take a couple of breaths. There's not much I can do to fix it. I can't grab the butterflies out of my belly and throw them away, right? I can't really access my ethereal place in the same way. So how do I get there? Is to just hold space for it. is to just breathe through it. Sometimes it's using a mudra, right? I know that if I'm having anxiety, I can use this mudra or that mudra to help me balance my system without judgment. Because a mudra is not judgment. The mudra is just inviting the alignment of the energy. If my brain is judging and my belly is having anxiety, why not grab a mudra, take a couple of breaths, or ask your anxiety, what do you need? What do you need right now? Am I frustrated? Yeah. But I recognize that there's a need. So let me know what it is. And this is why I really like to use the analogy of my pirates, right? For my emotions and my triggers and things. Because when I do that, it's the difference between saying, I am angry. I am is a statement we use when we're talking about, big, powerful, ethereal things too. And in meditation and mindfulness, we use the I am as a statement of truth, as a statement of being. So when I say, as a perpetual statement of being. So when I say I am angry, it embodies me. There's no beginning and end to it. I exist in the at the state of anger. Now, if I say I am feeling angry, to me, it's akin to saying I am acting that part as a theater kid, right? I'm like, wait a minute. Anger is a character on my ship, inside of me, on my team, who says, I've got to defend us. I've got to defend us by being very loud and being very forceful, because that's how I learned to defend us. It may be immature. It may not be the best way to defend us, but it's how my system learned to defend us. I can retrain that energy, right? I can adjust, I can align that stuff to happen when I recognize that that is a part of me that can't be amputated, that can't be pushed away, but only just needs to relearn how to do that job. Kelly, when my heart starts racing with perimenopause, right? Okay, it's here, right? What do? Sometimes, again, it's about being able to be present with the experience. That's the most powerful thing we can do, is be present with the experience. Someone asked me to, just a second ago, I think I saw it go by, asked after we talk about the chakras if we can talk about mindfulness and enlightenment or something like that. I was just looking for the comment. And I just want to point out that enlightenment is something that we are sold as this idea that's super complicated, super far away, super hard to access. You're probably going to spend lifetimes doing it. You have to have super complicated practices. You got to know the biggest, bestest gurus. You can only, if you're going to study with them, can you get it. But listen, I discovered something different. And maybe we're just playing semantics here, but enlightenment is simply the process of bringing more light into your awareness. So becoming more aware of the subtle layers within you as well as outside of you. Enlightenment is a journey that we take step by step, moment by moment by moment. And mindfulness is how we access that path, moment by moment by moment. Enlightenment is just bringing more light in. And what is light? What is your awareness? Light. Thank you. Thank you, Maud, for popping that up there. Yeah. Awakening to enlightenment. Let me catch up here. I've got 24 new messages. I want to catch up really quick. And then, yeah. Red Mama Yeti is feeling constantly misunderstood or never understood a heart chakra imbalance. Heard or understood, typically this is going to be this residing here in the throat chakra. It'd be a combination probably of these three, depending on your personal system, right? If I'm feeling like I'm misunderstood or never understood, that can be from this space here. It can be from this space here, feeling like I'm denied my truth and no one's listening to me, or feeling like nobody really perceives me, or what I'm trying to understand, or they're disconnected here from being able to communicate with them on a higher plane. And it can also be here in feeling grief or shame about not feeling seen and heard, or how it works within our relationships, right? Welcome, Chicago. Is there a mudra for when you feel stuck? Thank you. Is there a mudra for when you feel stuck? There are so many mudras for so many different things. So when you say stuck, what do you mean? What kind of stuck? in fear, anxiety, in shame, in unable to think clearly, right? Honey love, I feel like when I'm balanced, everyone makes me out to be the villain. It can when we stand in a balanced space or when we operate from authenticity, which is a balanced state of being, it can be very challenging to the people around us who are trying to operate in an imbalanced state, right? If we're taught that this is how we're supposed to be humans, running sideways, talking out of our mouths like this, look, that's what a real human looks like. You're all supposed to behave this way. If we're taught that through our enculturation process, if that's the belief, right, we're supposed to overwork ourselves and deny our truths and ignore our emotions and work super hard for the rest of our lives doing nothing of really value, right? These kinds of things. Then when we stand upright and put our arms down and shake off that shit, people are going to go, whoa, whoa, whoa. You're not supposed to be you. It's the same messaging that when we cried for help, they go, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! You don't get to just be have your needs met because you cried. What do you think this is?" Kelly, what is a mudra? So mudras are positions, are specific positions. What we work with in here is hasta mudras, hand position. There are tongue mudras, there's eye mudras, there's other mudras that you can use. So the mudras that we use, the reason we use hand mudras is because every element in your system, the five elements that rule your system, have channels through each of the fingers: fire, air, spirit or ether, earth, and water. And the practice of using mudras has been around for quite a while. I don't remember exactly when mudras started, but I know the history or the research in Vedic sciences of the energy body is as far back as 1500 BC. Mudras did not start that time at that point, but at some point along the way, we learned how to use those channels to shift the energy within our body. Again, this is why I like mudras, because they immediately will shift the channels and start moving your energy through your system to help realign it. Okay, trying to catch up here. Like can't move to get stuff done. Like unmotivated. Like froze, like when you freeze, basically, kind of deal. Like I can't get anything done because I'm feeling undirected or my energy is lethargic, kind of deal. I would use a prana mudra. If you're feeling thwarted because you just feel like the energy is stagnant, stuck, or you don't know how to take a step forward and you need to take a step forward, I would use the prana mudra. So the prana mudra is done like so. You keep your first two fingers extended and you bring the other two fingers to touch the tip of your thumb. Remember, when you're holding a mudra, we hold it with intention, not tension. Tension would be to squeeze my fingers together and to push those fingers out really hard. If you're doing that, you can feel the tension in your wrist and down your arm, and you'll feel it in your elbow and eventually your shoulder, and it's not going to feel very good. Don't do that. But we want intention, because no intention is no mudra, right? I'm just doing this with my hand. There's no intention there. So bring intention to your mudra. This is the prana mudra, and this is the mudra that activates the pranic energy in your system. You have different flows of energy: pranic, aponic, energy that moves outward, upward, downward, outward, inward, and all around, circulating within your system. This is the one that energizes the solar plexus, because that's the core of our pranic energy. This is our solar center. It's where our sun comes from. It's where our yang energy comes from. It's where our get up and go energy comes from. Prana, right here. You can lay this in your lap. So this is also one of those mudras that we see Christ using as well, right? One of my favorite things is to look at some of these old paintings, because these old paintings, way back when, the stuff that's still in museums and whatnot, right? Those are done commissioned. You're not finding somebody's random artwork that they're doing in their basement up in a museum. These are commissioned paintings, and every piece of those commissioned paintings is done on purpose. And so when you see Christ using a mudra, you have to ask yourself, what is that? This is the mudra for the sun, for the solar plexus, for raising our energy from down into the earth up into the sky. Pretty cool. Thank you, Pigeon. Is there a way to stay balanced during college? What kind of balance are you looking for? Okay. Is there a way to say balance during college? There's a way to stay balanced. One of my favorite all around balancing mudras is called the Shukri mudra. I'm already doing it right here. You gather all fingers to the thumb, touch the pads together. This brings all the elements together and is a really balancing mudra for everything in your system. And this is also a really incognito mudra, right? This is something we actually even do, right? So you can be sitting there in a conversation or in class or even eating food or whatever the heck else is going on, and you can grab the Shukri mudra to help balance all your elements. Maybe you're feeling anxiety, right? Or there's a test coming up, or you're sitting in the cafeteria, or you're trying to find your way to the dorm room, or whatever it is, whatever is going on. This brings all elements back into balance. Shukri mudra. I know I missed questions, guys. If I missed your question, please feel free to drop it again. Kelly, gosh, I wish I understood some of this deep stuff you're talking about. I'm gonna learn it. Hang around because this is the stuff that like I spent a lot of my life studying these things. So I was gifted my family's energy work, my family's lineage of energy work when I was a child and started doing energy work back then and then continued to do so and went to college specifically to try to find the connection between the energy body and what I felt and understood from receiving that lineage to how to bridge that gap between psychology, right? Because we're so compartmentalized in the West and we're so picked apart in the West and we're so molded by our culture. And if our culture does not support balance, authenticity, self love, self centeredness in that healing, healthy way, then we're gonna be misaligned on purpose or by happenstance, I guess. Thank you, Wellness Integrated Solutions. Yes. So I also just published a book. There's a link in my bio that you can go find it and purchase it. It's on Amazon. I'm not a big fan of Amazon, but it was the easiest, quickest, and most accessible way to get it out to everybody. Um, so that book is called Energy for Sale. I have a link in my bio. Yeah, and we can just search Energy for Sale on Amazon. And what it talks about is it's a three-part book. I talk about the of like marketing and how our enculturation process, propaganda, all these kinds of things, but more from the place of like, how do these things get written in? How does our culture really affect us on an energetic level? So I talk about that. And then in the second part, we go through each chakra and we talk about exactly the type of marketing that gets into those chakras. And I offer reflection questions to help you understand what the alignment of that chakra looks like right now and with you, right within you. And then the third part is about reclaiming our sovereignty. So I offer some simple tools to help becoming aware, right? Practicing mindfulness, becoming aware of the fact that there is marketing in front of you and bringing your awareness there so you can make a conscious choice instead of a triggered, unconscious choice. Most of us are being pushed and poked and prodded and puppeted around by unconscious choices that have been written into our systems, as we talked about before, during our earliest stages of development, because our system is absorbing our environment and making it our background programming, just like learning how to walk or learning how to chew. Lori, you say, can you explain mindfulness? So mindfulness, the way that I talk about it, is simply just the practice of being mindful. So being full or present, fully present within your internal space, right? So an example of mindfulness implemented, right? Mindfulness in practice. Hey, my friend. Mindfulness in practice is the difference between I'm going to go do my dishes and I'm going to give it all of my attention, all of my focus. I'm going to notice the smell of the soap. I'm going to listen for the little bubbles popping, and I'm going to feel the different textures of my dishes versus most of us go and do our dishes and we're thinking about the last time we had to do dishes. And especially if you have trauma around, I don't know, tasks or from childhood or from a previous relationship or whatever the situation is, you're there doing dishes. And instead of being present with what you're doing, your mind is thinking about the other things or your body is reacting to the fact that you're even doing them. So a good example is my issue, my stuff around it, right? Manifested in this way that when I do dishes, I pull my shoulders up like this. I pull my shoulders up and I feel like I have to like put a bunch of energy into doing the dishes. It becomes a like almost like a forceful thing. I push really hard on the sponge. I there's a lot of energy and a lot of force, but a lot of this that goes into it. And when I'm doing that, I'm also experiencing anxiety and I'm experiencing frustration, thinking about how nobody ever helps me. And I wish, that whatever I do so much, I would blah, 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 right? Whatever the narrative is. I am not present with the dishes. I am re experiencing every situation that made me feel hurt or frustrated or scared that was related to the dishes. My body's experiencing, my breath is experiencing it, my mind is experiencing it, and the dishes are subject to it. See, now when I put the dishes in the drying rack to be done, right? If I've done it that way, where I'm all over the place, I may have broken a dish. I may have missed food on the dishes. I may not have get them all done, or I may give the fuck up in the middle of it and saying, nope, forget it. I'm just so pissed off. I can't even do the dishes anymore. If I'm doing them from a place of being mindful about it, fully present within myself, it's a very different experience. Again, my favorite way to put it is like if you're an artist, right, and you're creating a painting and you get so completely focused and absorbed in the painting, it's a very different experience than if you're trying to paint and you're sitting there bitching at yourself about every single stroke. Hey, Nate, how you doing? Getting ready to go serve right now. As a working in food service, actually was one of my favorite ways to learn about people, about energy, right? And about how to choose my response rather than react to the situation. When you're serving, you're dealing with a lot of different people's energies coming and going, and a lot of people who are operating from an unconscious place, because a lot of us are still operating from an unconscious place. So the possibility that you're going to get somebody who's nasty to you because they've had a bad day is a lot higher than some other, right? Same with customer service and things like that. Like you see the way that people operate through these things. And like the lady in the Starbucks who's throwing a tantrum about the wrong milk, right? You look at her and you're like, whoa, you are clearly a 5-year-old right now, because we can see it so much more clearly when we're outside of it. Thank you guys for the gifts. But when we're inside of it, right, for her, that experience is not ridiculous. She's not, she's actually re-experiencing the real emotion, the real experience that she experienced when she was younger. Maybe not getting her needs met. That thing, thank you, Bree. That's so awesome. That thing is very real for her. This is the thing we got to remember. These things are very real when we experience them. When anger comes up within you, that's real, isn't it? When grief grips you, anxiety grips you, these things are real. And as long as we keep going, nuh-uh, I don't know, then they're just going to fester. They're just going to, I always say it's like putting something perishable, right? Your emotions are perishable. They're meant to rise and fall like your breath. Just like within your digestive system, things are supposed to be eaten and then expelled at some point after they've been squeezed of all their nutrients, right? Well, these are temporal systems that we operate within. And within those systems, they need to be released. If something got stuck in your gut, it could potentially destroy your body. Like that's awful, right? But when it does, when something doesn't settle within your system, not quite right for your system, not in alignment, what happens? We get gassy, we get belly aches, we get burps, we get sick, right? And when we do the same thing with our emotions and our experiences, we shove them back down into our systems, finite things, they start to rot, they start to fester, and then they come up as regurgitated bullshit over and over and over again. Or we spew our emotions onto our partners because that's the safe place for me to spew my emotions, right? After all day long of shoving them down. Those are not aligned. Those are not balanced ways to process these things. But a lot of us here, we have not been given the tools here in the West to process these things. Why? Because our system, our culture would rather keep you out of balance, because then you're easier to poke out of balance. I can easily push you down if you're constantly in fear. I can bait you with a shred of reality if you don't experience the fullness of abundance, right? I can be like, oh, here, if someday you'll get retirement if you just work your entire life, okay? But you don't realize that you don't have to actually do those things. Okay, let me see what I missed. Lalori, is there a mudra for general irritability?
Leave that snake alone. The cat's not a
I don't know. That's an interesting question. Is there a mudra for general irritability? Let me pin it here. So as I said before, we can use the Shukri mudra to balance all elements, right? So if it's kind of like a general feeling and you're not sure where it's rooted in, you can always just use this one. I would not recommend using the Padma mudra because that's an energizing mudra, right? So if you're feeling irritable, you don't want to add fire to irritability. So cooling or resting mudras, things that are going to bring you down a little bit, but not bring you down, but like calm, right? The energy. But also irritability can come from the heart and the solar plexus. So we did the Padma mudra earlier. Thank you guys for the follows. The Padma mudra, we bring the bases of the hands together, the sides of the pinkies and the thumbs, and keep the rest of them open in this nice little lotus flower. You can hold it here at the heart. And I find this one overall soothing because I always imagine this is the chalice that's receiving source energy, right? Love, what have you, just soothing energy right in here and allow it to flow in through my heart and just clear away any blockages, anything holding me back. Irritability can come from so many places. Here's another one that just popped in my mind. Another one for irritability you could use is called the Hamsi mudra. And I think we used that one last month for the solar plexus. The Hamsi mudra is a joyful little mudra that's meant to bring about just a lightness to your system, meant to shake things up a little bit. It's kind of like an energetic laughter, kind of, is what I think about with the Hamsi mudra. What it makes me feel is that little bubbliness of laughter, and that little bit of air, that little bit of energy can help to clear away or make space, right, for irritability. So the Hamsi mudra, we did use that one. So the Hamsi mudra is done like so. Instead of, don't make a fist, extend your pointer finger and then bring the tips of your fingers to touch your thumb here. Hamsi mudra. And you can hold it here. I find that wiggling it is a really nice way to give, because this is the air element, right? So we're letting that air literally like just come in and rustle things up a little bit. Things have become a little bit stale. Things are a little bit irritable. I'm going to go ahead and open the windows to let a breeze through. This is the Hamsi mudra and can help bring giggles to something that's a little too serious, right? When we end up a little too serious. I just pissed at him. Yeah, Maribel, you're more controllable. So this is why I put that book out again, the book that I have just recently published with my amazing publisher who got this done extremely quickly. It is available on Amazon and it's called Energy for Sale. There is a link in my bio. You can also use the bit.ly link. You know how to do the bit.ly, bit.ly/energy for sale. And that should get you there. Again, link is in my bio. And this book talks about the 3 parts. The reason I put it out now is because we are really dealing with the crescendo, so to speak, the peak kind of experience of being manipulated by our system, by being kept out of balance by our system and on purpose. You know, we on purpose. I was going to say, we could say that it wasn't happening before, but it always has been in some way. Your culture always seeks to teach you how to be inside that culture. And every culture is going to have its challenges and its, skills. It's things that are really good and it's things that are not so great. As we develop and grow as a species, we're going to have out of balances. And a lot of times our culture is the thing that then implants those imbalances in us. It's kind of like the inherited generational trauma stuff, our genetic stuff that we inherit within our systems and also our culture. The thing is we live in a culture right now that would rather keep you out of balance so that your energy, you can be pushed and pulled and poked around, because it's really hard to convince a human to subjugate themselves for the rest of their lives unless they really believe that that's the only option. if you knew the capacity for your personal power, if you thank you, Kelly, if you knew the freedom that comes with your autonomy, and I'm not yeah, not from a place of ego, but true centered, finding your purpose. Can you imagine what it'd be like if you actually were one of those humans, fabled humans, who knew their purpose and could live their life boldly for their purpose, right? Without letting anybody else's bullshit knock them out of balance? That'd be great. How do we get there? How do we get there? We have to recognize how we're out of balance, how the culture has been manipulating us on purpose. Yes. Right now, you can go on YouTube. You don't even have to go to college. You can go on YouTube and you can find a free video about how to market to your audience, how to turn a hard no into a happy yes. And I'm like, that is psychological manipulation. It is energetic and emotional manipulation that they are teaching you in a class so that you can learn how to goad people into doing something that is actually not really for them just because you think it's for them. And I personally am feel very, very, very adamant that we are not meant to be puppets. We are not meant to be, right? You're not an empty vessel for whatever your culture thinks you should do. Your purpose is yours alone and yours to follow. And as long as you're not following that purpose, then you're out of alignment. I think of it like a path, right? Like a road that we can walk on. And if I am on that road is the road that's going to get me to the places that I really want to go to. When we talk about things like manifestation, when I talk about manifestation in here, I'm talking about really being in the center of your path, finding the center of your path. And when you do, how everything that you actually need really does start coming into your life, showing up into your life. Manifestation is about inviting alignment, receiving the gifts that are meant for you from the universe, and knowing when to say no to the things that aren't actually in alignment for you. Manifestation is not about forcing your will onto the universe and demanding that you get that fancy new car or that fancy new house or the perfect job or that job that you think you want. If your scales are tipped, if I'm out of alignment and my system is riddled with outdated beliefs and triggers that don't really serve me, and my energy is doing all these things, then my choice of what job or partner or what have you may not really be what's for me. It's going to be my measurement's going to be off. So if I want to know what's really for me, I've got to figure out how to clarify my system so I can hear that's not for us. That's yes for us. That answer only comes from within that inner compass, from your inner guru. Pigeon, you're welcome. Thank you, Jack. Kelly, you're talking about feeling so on edge because of everything. It's so hard to relax. Kelly, I understand what you were experiencing in the sense that when I left the situation that I was in, that was extremely traumatic. That's all I wanted to. And that's why I drank. I wanted to erase my memory. I wanted to erase me because I couldn't believe I could have been so stupid to be manipulated. I couldn't believe that I would have been so trusting to be in that situation. There was a lot of guilt and a lot of shame. And there was so much. What I realized was that I didn't even have spoons to fight myself. I no longer had spoons to fight the feelings of guilt or shame. I no longer had energy. Hey, thank you, friend. I no longer had energy to balance, or do yoga or say a prayer or any of it. I was just so empty because I felt so empty because I felt so filled with all these other things. Just fucking hot air. Thank you. We all have different paths, so what works for me may not work for you. But one of the most important things that I did was really at the end of every day, I would give myself that pat on the back, and it doesn't matter what I did that day, how well or how horrible I judged myself that day, every single time I gave myself that gratitude. You did okay. You made it through another day. You made it through another day. And that's the most valuable thing that you could have done today. Everything else is okay. Everything else is temporary. But beyond that, the thing that started to make real change was I made a commitment to meet myself every day, not just with this, but I started with 15 minutes every day. I actually now recommend that you just start with 5. First thing in the morning, set yourself a snooze for 5 minutes. If you want to do 15, do 15. But meeting yourself, holding space for yourself, spending the time with yourself is imperative, because most of us are just ignoring the self, and the self is screaming for our attention, banging on the door with anxiety and fear and shame and guilt, saying, let us out. I can't be in here anymore, all curled up in the corner when I'm supposed to be expressing and using this energy to its full capacity. So start with 5 minutes. Set yourself that timer in the morning or in the evening or anytime else during the day. It doesn't matter when. But during those 5 minutes, just listen. If you can't say something nice to yourself, you don't have to say anything at all. You can listen to your breath. You can listen to your heartbeat. You can listen to the thoughts in your head that say, today's going to suck. I don't want to fucking do this. And that be okay. Thank you, Rin. Whatever you do, whatever you experience in that space, I encourage you to meet it with curiosity and willingness, because curiosity and willingness are an opportunity to receive. Judgment, shame, guilt, right? Blame, these things, I'm not going to receive anything. And if I put my fists up, my defenses are going to defend me, even against me. Your system right now is probably defending you, against the negative self-talk, about the frustration, against the frustration, the guilt, the shame, all the things intertwining and saying, it's still not safe in here. So if somehow I can start showing up as a safe place for myself to be, what does that look like? At the very core, at the very bottom, at the very basic level, curiosity and willingness. It sounds simple. Again, even may sound silly, but it was in that space that I started to hear, I started to be able to perceive the quieter parts of me, that I started to build trust. So just ignore that somehow. Keep positive. It's hard when you're alone and have no family, no friends. I also had nobody. It was me and my son. Again, I'm not trying to usurp your experience, just sharing mine in reflection. I had nobody as well. I had nobody to call. I had nobody coming over to check on me. Nobody would have known if something happened. And no, the answer isn't to ignore yourself. It's to listen. It's to hold space. It's to find the capacity in your heart to maybe even love yourself the same way you would with your kid. When your kid is throwing a tantrum or being pissed off about something or sobbing about something or whatever it is, right? When you see your child having this huge emotional experience and all you want to do is hold space for them. You can do that for yourself too. And it's just as effective. I love you, Kelly. I'm really glad you're here, hon. Jack, start making TikTok videos. That's good therapy. It actually is. It actually was. When I started teaching here, 3 or so years ago, it was a huge step for me, because a huge trauma in just being true to myself or speaking up my truth or sharing who I really am, right? When you're carrying guilt and shame, putting yourself on the internet is sometimes really fucking dangerous, right? And if you go scrolling back through all my content way, way, way back there, you'll see I hold myself differently. My voice sounds different. The whole point of coming on here and starting to teach was to practice truly being me. probably one of the first times in my life that I not pushed aside, that I processed through, went through all the other shit enough to say, you know what? There's nothing else left. There is no point moving forward to be anybody else but me, because that has never fucking worked. It didn't work, right? It didn't fucking work. And why was I giving myself away? Why was I denying my own truth? Why was I, pushing down who I am in favor to let somebody else be the better them? Why am I not valuable enough to just be me? Really old message. Yes.
Where's that nail polish remover?
And it's the blue bottle, I think, with the black top in there.
What container or sink should it be in?
I don't know. It should just be out there in the cabinet there.
Which one?
Honey?
There's 3 cabinets.
I understand. That's why you have eyeballs. Did you just close your eyes? It's part of becoming aware of your environment, is learning how to look for something. Prophet, you said something up there earlier that I forgot to respond to. Nate, I'm glad you got into a place where you're able to share with us. It helps a lot. Again, it was the sharing that helped me too. It was the sharing that allowed me to see myself. I did it actually before I even started doing TikTok videos. My son and I were taking a bike ride. And in my head, I had this really negative, thank you, friend, narrative about how I'm just a jerk. I'm like, when I ask somebody to do something, or when I express a need or a concern or whatever, I sound like a jerk. That's the message I've received, because in the past, every time I set a boundary or spoke about what I needed, I often was met with, why you be so rude, right? What the hell? So my kid and I are riding our bikes on a back road, and I'm teaching him about how you got to keep your bike to the side of the road so that when cars come by, right, you can't be just doing this in the middle of the freaking road. Well, he's also 6, 5, whatever he was at the time, 5, maybe even. So I'm doing my best to say this in a way, but I'm also irritated. So my fear is that I sound like the worst possible scenario. I'm just being a horrible, horrible mother. I turned my phone on and recorded that interaction on purpose, without trying to change the way that I was talking, but like, okay, I'm going to let it come out how it's going to come out so I can hear myself. When I watched that video, I was shocked, truly shocked, that I didn't sound like I thought I did. I did not at all sound like I was telling myself I sounded like. And just that little act of being able to create that mirror for yourself and go, oh, can you imagine if you filmed yourself every time you got angry and yelled at somebody, how that might look, that mirror? If you filmed yourself or recorded yourself, I'm not saying go put it on social media, sobbing, right? Or feeling depressed. A lot of times we can't see ourselves in these things unless we have mirrors around us. And if we don't have people around us, it can be kind of hard to see ourselves or to see a way out of these things. Big Bang Hank, ask your kid how you sound to him. We can always ask others how we sound, right? And sometimes I do. And we have regular conversations, right, about our emotions and expressing them, and how we may not always be perfect when we express them, but it's not about being perfect. It's about processing the energy, and then about taking responsibility for it. It's about making the choice on how to process the energy, and we're not always going to get it right. But shame and guilt and blame, right, and condemnation, just because I didn't get it right today doesn't mean that tomorrow I won't get it right. Giving yourself that opportunity, that trust. Monica, 100% when isolated, your interpretation can be very different from reality. It's important to remember that, because we have all these narratives and all these beliefs and all these things that happen unconsciously in our brains. Again, that's manifestation. The way you perceive your reality manifests your reality in line with the energy that you have within you and the energy that you're experiencing and the way that your beliefs and patterns and whatever are integrated into your system. This is what we mean when we say we create a reality. We don't mean that you just suddenly projected all of this shit out there and nothing else exists. If you close your eyes, it's all gone. No, we have a collective reality. We have somewhat tangible, matter that we can interact with, right? The manifestation of your reality is the interaction between your patterns, your beliefs, and your energy and what's actually out there. And what I love about mindfulness is mindfulness gives you the opportunity to see so much more, to bring light to your inner and outer reality. Think about the time that you were super worried about something, like you had a bad day at work and you were just going over and over and over again that conversation you had with your boss, right? It was really terrible. You're really worried. So you've got that conversation in your head and you're driving yourself home and you make it to your driveway, right? You pull in your driveway and all of a sudden you suddenly realize that you've been so obsessed with that conversation in your head that you missed the last 6 blocks. Whoa, I can't believe I made it home. I don't even remember. Was there even did I stop at the light back there? Holy moly, how did I lose that time? You might not have seen the new car that your neighbor got. You might not have seen the kid walking down the street, bouncing a basketball. Were they there? Yeah. Did you see them? Did you perceive them with your awareness? Were they within your awareness? No. Why? Because your awareness was not present here in the moment to see those things. Hi, puppy. Do you need to go outside? Okay, I'll put you outside. Hold on, y'all. I'll be right back. Take a break. Go ahead and get yourself some water really quick. Make a bathroom break. I'll be right back. Okay. Taking a pause to give myself grace. If you are interested in learning about the intersection between your energy body and these patterns we're talking about, and how. So, my book is called Energy for Sale, the energetic blueprint for consumer conditioning. If you would like to know exactly how those ads got you to buy the thing, or how we can be manipulated by systems that seem benign, right? If you're interested in bringing your power back, in rediscovering or discovering your locus of control and learning how to actually become not even just a conscious consumer, because it's not just about becoming a conscious consumer, it's about finding out what's right for you. It's that simple, finding out what's right for you. And capitalism would rather you buy what it supplies, whether it's right for you or not. A religion or a government that wants you to just comply has to put in you the narrative that that's what your purpose is to comply. It's a kind of control, it's a kind of manipulation that happens so early. It primes you to be fed propaganda. It primes you to be fed marketing tactics. It primes you to be triggered in your most vulnerable places so that your energy, your time, and attention can be harvested. So that you buy the things that support the companies, so that so that you work for the places that build their dreams and not yours, so that you'll accept scraps from a culture or from your neighbors or from yourself, when really we can nourish ourselves a whole lot more, be so much more conscious about the choices that we are making. And ultimately, at the core of it, just take your power back. Just give yourself back the power to make conscious decisions. Some of us may be okay with being like, actually, I feel safe inside of this little box and I want to stay inside the little box, and that's how I want to live my life. If you want to live your life like that, you can. I personally don't like it inside of the box. I don't like the strings of being puppeted by a culture. And even though I'm aware of it, even though you're aware of it, marketing is meant to manipulate you, right? We all know that. That's the whole point of it. It's like trying to get you to buy something. But do you realize how deeply it triggers you? Do you realize some of the bigger things that it's doing to play on your patterns and your emotions? To get you to buy into it, to get you to prop up a belief system or these other things that are, again, not about you. Nate, I feel that so deeply here in the US, low key want to move to another country just to get away from this very thing. So the reality is, every country, every culture does this to different degrees. I'm not here sitting saying to you that this is only the US. It's not. And in the book that I wrote, it's called Energy for Sale. It's available on Amazon, link in my bio, Energy for Sale. I go over the history of how this is something that's been happening for much of humanity. It's something that comes out of the enculturation process. And the enculturation process is something that every single human goes through. It's your gift because you decided to step into the meat bag. You decided to come into the meat bag, and you're gonna live, you're gonna live inside of your meat bag in this lifetime. You're gonna go on this journey. Here you are, plopped into your meat bag, right? And your meat bag has to figure out how to keep your spirit, you safe in this lifetime. Kelly, I was just repeating stuff about my book, Energy for Sale, and about how someone just commented that they feel really overwhelmed with the stuff happening in the US, especially in the US. And I agree, it's happening a lot here, but it's also happening a lot in other places as well. And this is, again, it's called Energy for Sale, link in bio. You can find it on Amazon. Energy for Sale. And I talk in the very first part about the history of how this came about. In fact, the modern tactics of marketing here in the States were the same tactics, literally the same tactics, because literally there was this guy. Okay, so this guy's name is Edward Bernays. I'll tell you about this in the book. You'll learn more about it than in the book when you read it. But Edward Bernays, he's considered the father of modern marketing. You can go find a book about Edward Bernays. He was Freud's nephew. And Freud is the one that did all of that psychology study about our emotions and about our inner triggers and about our subconscious patterns that we don't realize exist, right? Until they manifest into our lives. He took that and used it as a marketing tool, as a way to manipulate you by saying, well, if we know that these processes exist, then maybe we can poke those buttons and make people react. Sure enough, you can. Guess where that exact same marketing, those tactics were used? During World War II. During Hitler's speeches. They were used to write his campaigns because they're that effective. And if you wonder how that happened during World War II, That's part of how. By triggering and by playing on the patterns that already exist within you that your culture gave you, and then playing more so on your insecurities and your fears. And if you know that you're born in this culture that gives you things like insecurity, shame, or fear because of the way that we're raised, because of the parenting tools that we use. For example, here in the States, we used to use the cry it out method, and there's still plenty of parents who still use it. I'm sorry to say that causes imbalances in your chakra system. You're not meant to be self soothing as a baby. Your energy is not meant to do that. Your brain is not meant to do that. Your body's not meant to do that. And so it breeds a sense of lack, a sense of fear, a sense of not being able to get my needs met. And so, what does my energy body do? It's trying to keep me safe. So, it's going to unconsciously fight harder to get my needs met. It's also going to write in the narrative that my needs aren't easily met, right? Or people aren't going to meet my needs when I ask for them. Or life is I don't even have needs, right? Some of us learn to just hide our needs completely and say, "Oh, I don't need anything." It's out of balance, and your culture or capitalism or propaganda or like a political movement or a religious movement or whatever it is that's going on can poke you in there and say, I know how you can get your needs met. I have the secret. And it's insidious because it's not that direct. It's done through intentional manipulation. It's done through intentional flipping of the truth. It's done through tapping into your energy body, tapping into your subconscious programming that's gifted to you by your culture. All they have to do is know how to poke those buttons. And we have, decades longer in psychology on how to poke those buttons. Thank you, Erin, for the gifts. Kelly, your grandparents escaped a concentration camp in Poland. And that will absolutely offer you generational trauma. Why? Because the energy body of your grandparents, the experiences of your grandparents, right, are written into your energy systems, to their energy systems. When they decide to have children, the child is absorbing their energy patterns so that it gets a leg up on how to deal with the world. If the world is super scary, or if you're living in an area that's really, really, really dangerous, the only way to survive is for you to know it's really dangerous. How are you going to know it's really dangerous? By feeling the energy of your parents and of the people around you. And as an infant, as a child, we're just absorbing that. We're like, oh, okay. The energy here is shit's not safe. The world is really dangerous. I should probably live in a state of fear, just like the people around me, because that's how they're doing it, and they're staying safe that way. They're surviving that way. So that's how I'm going to do it. And unless we examine that, that's going to keep being the thing that patterns throughout our lives. In Before It's Banned, was I on the Dr. Phil show? No, I will not go on the Dr. Phil show. Dr. Phil is a really good example of some really out of balance chakra stuff. That's an overblown solar plexus, a underactive third eye. Yeah. And an overactive throat chakra. I think one of my favorite things to do, and I told you guys I would do this, and I'm going to start making the content now. I think I might put it out in April, but I wanted to play with the chakra alignments and public figures, prominent public figures. I think it'd be a fun thing to take prominent public figures and say, what out of balances do we see in these public figures? So we can point them out, right? And say, oh, a behavior like this is what an overblown solar plexus looks like. Or a behavior like this is what a wounded heart chakra looks like. What's today's conversation? About the energy body, but the energy body chakras. Hey, Willow, how are you? That would be fun and great learning. I figured it'd be, so like, let's say, Anybody who's sitting there telling you fear-mongering messages, anybody whose constant message is about how scary and dangerous the world is, I bet you can probably think of a couple of prominent figures, especially in the public sphere, that talk from a perspective of how dangerous and scary the world is, and you should be fearful. Those people are dealing with a out of balance root chakra, right? Or possibly an overactive root chakra, trying to create and generate more fear, as well as trying to find that security for themselves too. Okay, so behaviors can reveal what chakra is out of balance. Yes. So when your energy, when your chakra energy, when your energy body is out of balance, it manifests both in your emotional body, in your intellectual body, as well as in your physical body. As long as our system is out of balance, the longer it's out of balance, the more likely it's going to become a chronic thing. So, for example, if you have a physical ailment in certain part of your body or chronic things in certain part of your body, it can be an indication of an out of balance, a misbalance in that chakra, misalignment in that chakra. So the way to align or heal our chakras is to notice, where are our red flags? Where is my check engine light, right? Low back, that's the back of your sacral chakra. And your sacral chakra is about getting your needs met. Issues with your spine up here and vertebra out of place and your neck is always stiff, that's your throat chakra. That's about truth. That's about both speaking your truth and receiving other people's truth. It's all about creativity and expression, just like your sacral chakra is about movement and play. So if you're, again, an emotion comes up, where do you feel that emotion? Tap into that chakra and do some work to help balance that chakra. It's rarely a single chakra, because this is an interconnected dynamic system. So if I feel anxiety in my belly and I go to address the anxiety in my belly, I may realize it's actually coming from my root because I'm feeling unsafe. Or it's coming from an imbalance in my throat because I've been unable to speak my truth or set boundaries or say the things that I need to say, right? So it can be, again, it's not a thank you, friend. It's not something that you're like, oh, I can just do this one thing and I fixed myself. But that's the beauty of it, is because it's in a dynamic, ever changing breathing system. With every breath, you have an opportunity to take a deeper breath, right? Or to have a full experience of your breath. I can be unconscious of my breath and it might be shallow, right? Or moving too fast or really, really slow, or it might even be barely there. If I bring my awareness to my breath, I'm more likely to take a full breath. So if I bring awareness to my energy, to my triggers, to the emotion, I'm more likely to be able to release that pattern because I can experience it fully and I can give it permission to be there by giving it my attention. Just catching up here really quick. Can chronic anxiety indicate a chakra misalignment? Yes, I would say it does. Chronic anxiety indicates a chakra misalignment, indicates that your energy system is out of alignment. And anxiety, some of us feel it in different places. So wherever you feel it first when anxiety comes up, touch that part of your body, because that's exactly where the energy is most out of alignment. If you follow that, right, deal with that first, and then you may notice that the energy shifts. If you can be really mindful of the experience inside of your body, that's fantastic. But if you're not mindful of the energy or the experience inside of your body, then it's okay to just use simple practices, right? If anxiety comes up, just breathing with it. Forget about where it happens in your body. Just breathe. Before acting, before reacting, pause for a moment, give it space to be, and then see if you can carry on with your day. Sometimes it's enough to just pause and then go ahead and move forward. And then if it comes up again, pause. And go on again. A lot of times these things are just stagnant things that need to be released. But that's when I would like to learn how to unlock generational patterns. The key to unlocking that is in you. It's by addressing the things that are most prominent in our systems and then following them down to the deeper and deeper things, because then you will get to the deeper and deeper things. Then you will get to that deep-seated sense of abandonment or fear from many generations living in dangerous spaces or cultures, or or from generations of subjugation and torture or things like that, right? Like, we find these things deeply underneath our current patterns. Well, Lori, I'm just curious, do you have a meditation practice? Yes, I do have regular meditation practice. I give myself a minimum of about 15 minutes every day to just be with myself. My meditation is a personal practice. The more you sit with it, the more it will resonate within you. I have some really fancy, complicated, cool meditation practices that I do sometimes, but my daily practice, my regular practice is simply just being with myself and learning to align my attention with my intention. So if my intention is just to be present, then I'm just going to bring my attention back every single time my mind goes off on something else or something else, my energy wants to do something else. Every single time I just bring that attention back again and again and again. Looks like we might have company. Nope. All right. Glitterbee, fibromyalgia and upper back and shoulders. So fibromyalgia is a full body nervous system thing, and that can come from. I mean, that's your whole system. I don't know if I can actually put. Okay, fibromyalgia. I would do all over practices, all over balancing practices, but fibromyalgia, because it affects. Every time I try to say it, I'm being thwarted. So no, I was going to say it was rooted in the sacral chakra. I was going to try to make the connection to the sacral chakra, but try the Shukri mudra, which just balances all upper back and shoulders. The back of your heart chakra is between your shoulder blades here. So upper back and neck and shoulders. This is about your heart and your throat. Remember, your throat is about creativity. It's also about truth. It's also about expression. So it's your ability to speak your truth, to be able to experience joy and playfulness in a creative, expressive way, as well as to receive other people's truths. And other people's truths, if they've hurt you before, can be stored back here and cause issues back here because you're holding those negative words, those misjudgments, or other people's, and it can cause you to struggle to hear other people's truths in the future because of that. Karen, what chakra needs work when someone who acts in anger and revenge? So somebody who's really, really forceful with their energy in whatever capacity that is, that's about the solar plexus. And again, and in Chinese medicine, we know that we store our anger in our liver. So again, this is the center for pranic energy. It's the upward, the outward, the energizing energy within our systems. So if someone is dealing with consistent, really a lot of issues of anger, it's the solar plexus. That's the first place I'd go to. And underneath that energy in the solar plexus being overactive, what does that mean? My energy in my solar plexus is experiencing anger and going and getting revenge, right? Because that's the only way I know to get my needs met. So what is my need to express anger? Actually, my need is probably to feel safe, because I feel ungrounded or uncared for, or maybe because I don't feel connections or good relationships, and so instead I demand them or I do these things, and my only way to try to get them back or to trap that energy is to then react with anger if I'm not getting what I need. Think about the 2-year-old or the 3-year-old who isn't getting their needs met, and they use anger or a tantrum to get their needs met, to get the attention. Well, if that's successful for your energy body, I didn't say good or good for you or good for anybody else, just successful in whatever way, then you're going to keep doing that pattern. That pattern is going to keep patterning throughout your life until you're willing to realign that, or until it causes so much problems that, with something like that, you end up in jail, or you end up in a worse situation, or you end up doing something really fucking horrible because you're letting that stuff lead you in that way, instead of acknowledging that the answer, the healing, happens in here, not by weaponizing or attacking others, right? Kelly, it's been wonderful chatting with you. If you're still in here, I'm trying to catch up on comments here. Remember, y'all, I do also offer I offer memberships for group coaching, private coaching. I do also offer a 40-day intensive. It's a 40-day everyday coaching session for if you're trying to move through something really big or really, yeah. Please make sure you message me before you sign up for that one so we can make sure we schedule it properly together. CMOD, Anahata, yes. Heart chakra all month long. Would I call that a kind of shadow work? Yeah. So when we talk about shadow work, I think that it's a really interesting. So I think a lot of times we can feel like the shadow self is our negative self. It's our bad self, right? Or it's the ugly things we don't want to look at. Um, shadow self is just the yin and yang of your energy, right? And if we deny a yin or a yang aspect, if we deny some type of energy, then it becomes part of our shadow self. It becomes something that we put in the shadows because we don't want to shine light on it, don't want to look at it. So the shadow work is really just facing the parts of yourself that you're afraid to look at or are really difficult to look at or are things that are scary. Um, there's this other piece to it too, where in our culture we externalize things to such a degree that we would even call them like, oh, somebody's being possessed by demons, or they're being psychically attacked. We think these things come from outside of us, and very, very often they're actually manifested from inside of us. They're the pieces that have been ignored and pushed away and vilified within ourselves to such a degree that they become the villain within us, and they will enact those villainous behaviors out there in the world. Why? To hurt you? No, because they're wanting your attention. Glitter bee, the call is coming from inside of the house. The call is always, almost always coming from inside of the house. Almost always coming from inside of the house. But that actually means that you have some control. That actually means that you have the power. Whereas if it's somewhere outside of you, right? What am I supposed to do if some demonic entity is coming into my, from somewhere out there? I don't have much control over that. Yeah, I can use my protections and I can use my spells and I can use all my stuff to do the things, right? Like that. But if it's of me, then it's mine. And when we take responsibility for all parts of ourselves, we actually become able to respond rather than being reactive. Because if I'm reactive, I'm repeating actions, unconscious programs, actions, patterns. Reaction means to repeat the same action. Respond is about being responsible enough to be not enough, responsible with your energy, present and aware of what's going on so that I can choose how to respond. That's where you start to cultivate real personal power. That's where you find authenticity, right? Because if these programs are going back there in the back of my head, have you ever done something you're like, that's just not me. That's not who I want to be. That's not who I feel good being. But then you still do the thing. Why are we doing things that are not us? Why are we doing things that don't feel good in our life but to continue perpetuating them? Oftentimes because we don't know that there's another option. What am I drinking? Just coffee. Just coffee. Coffee with some maple, a little bit of milk. That's all that's in there today. So again, this book that I wrote, it's called Energy for Sale. It's on Amazon right now. There's a link in my bio as well. And in that book, I offer an exploration of how we get programmed by our culture and how this is a normal thing that all cultures go through and humans have gone through since the dawn of time. How to see it manifesting in your different chakras, and then how to use these tools to align to I keep wanting to avoid saying the word heal because it's such a buzzword, right? And it gives us the wrong impression that heal means it's done, that there's a destination to get to, and when I get to that destination, I'll be done. But the universe is, when we understand quantum physics, right? There's just layer upon layer upon layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of reality. And isn't that enlightenment? From awakening to enlightenment. It's the process of bringing awareness to the subtle layers of self inside and out of our reality. Thank you for the follow, friend. So the idea of this book, too, is to give you a window into this stuff. And then so you can come join me during these Saturday classes, or you can come join me in coaching, group coaching, or private coaching so that I can help you directly working with these energies. During coaching sessions, you have access to everything I do. And that's a laundry list. Again, you can look at my credentials and all the things that I do over on my Patreon page. You're very welcome, Large. Let me see. Much 1, 2, 3. My jumpsuit is from a thrift store. I think everything I've got is from a thrift store, pretty much. That's where all the treasures are. Reconciling the self. Yeah, Lamira. Just like your energy system has a finite amount of energy, right? Let's talk about the structure of the energy system, because this is one of those things that you can go Google the chakras, but they don't really talk about these pieces, right? So your energy body, your body has an electromagnetic generator. That's your heart. Your heart is made up of defibrillator cells. Those defibrillator cells do the pumping. Boop, 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 right? When they all come together, they make your heart do what it does. And when they're healthy, they have a really nice rhythm to them that's not a static rhythm. Remember, a healthy heart is not just like same rhythm every day. It's dynamic. A healthy heart needs higher highs and lower lows and some quieting down and some speeding up. That's what makes a healthy heart, right? So dynamic. But that is from where that energy, that boom, 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 is what produces the energy field around your system. It produces your finite energy field. This energy, there's only so much that your heart creates, right? So as that energy is moving from the heart and around your system, it has to know where to go. If my system is balanced and clear, I've got a nice big energy field all the way around me. It expands past my fingertips and it flows with ease through all these different channels in my system. Imagine this like a vessel or like a really complicated organ, right? Like a musical instrument. The music is going to come out clear and tuned. But if my instrument is out of tune, it's not going to quite sound right. So when I try to play a song, whether or not I know the song by heart, if my energy if my instrument is out of tune, it's still going to sound funky, right? So what happens in your energy body is that when it starts to develop its patterns, learn how to live in this life space, when that root chakra says, uh-oh, it's dangerous, right? Crystal, Free Palestine, an example of what's going on in Gaza right now, is hugely, we know it's hugely traumatic, but the fact that this thing that's happening is severely damaging the root chakras, the sacral chakras, the whole chakra system of the people who are living there. And the people who are engaging in both sides of that conflict are having imbalances patterned into their system because of how dangerous and how extreme that conflict is right now. And it's horrific to think about the fact that that's generational trauma. That's generational trauma that's going to go into every single not every single generation, but it's going to be carried forward. Those imbalances. Why? Because the children that are born in that environment, the only way to survive is to know how dangerous that environment is. So it patterns my energy to recognize my world as that dangerous. And someone who grew up in a situation like that or was born into a situation like that, even if that situation is over and healed and the whole freaking world finds peace altogether, that person's energy body can still be way out of balance. And it can cause them for the rest of their lives to go when something might be unsafe. This is how we manifest our reality. This is how we experience our world through our lenses. This is why it's important to check your belief systems, check your energy bodies, to notice when your scales are tipped. Because if my scales are tipped and I learned that this situation is going to cause me fear or be unsafe, or it's going to hurt me, or it's going to make me sad or whatever, then my body's going to try to protect me from this negative thing happening. My energy is going to try to protect me from this negative thing happening again. And in that way, again, I can say thank you to my imbalances, to my overblown emotions, to my triggers, to the things that I judge and say are out of balance and say are frustrating and annoying and anxiety and all these things. They're my allies. They're my allies because they indicate what parts of me need my help. They're my allies because they are sitting here telling me, hey, the root chakra is way out of balance because we just don't feel safe. I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe. And we can repattern these things so that we do feel safe. And when we feel unsafe, or we feel shameful or guilt, or we feel grief, a lot of times those influence our behaviors. And we may say something that's hurtful or mean just so that we feel better about ourselves. Or we may laugh at somebody in their authenticity just to make ourselves feel better. That is siphoning energy off people. That shows that you're out of balance and disconnected from your energy body, from knowing how to balance your energy body. If you feel justified in hurting somebody or in reveling in someone else's shame or pain, then you are absolutely in an out of balance energy system. And the reason your body and your mind and your energy is doing that is because it's desperate for a full cup. But you can never, ever, 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 ever fill your cup with someone else's energy. You have a finite energy body generated by your heart. The source for that energy is not to siphon it from somebody else. The source for this energy is my heart. There's there's a prophecy. There's a Hopi prophecy that's been talked about a lot in the last little while here. And this Hopi prophecy talks about a time when humanity will split between people with their heads connected and people with their heads disconnected. And to me, this is when we see that. Heads disconnected from the heart, disconnected from the awareness of our energy body, disconnected from other people and our connection to our fellow humans, because we are pack animals. We're not solitary creatures. And all y'all being like, I want to be a lone wolf. You're not realizing that the lone wolf is a wolf that's out of balance, is a wolf that is not thriving, but barely surviving, merely surviving, because they don't have all their needs met. Because one of our needs is community and belonging. And if we don't feel like we belong, well, then we'll bite other humans again and again. Or if we feel like we shouldn't belong, there's a deeper narrative written under there, and like we don't deserve to belong, then we may find a really nice situation, but then we will self-sabotage because we don't belong. And to keep me safe, as immature as it is, my energy body is going to manifest the opportunity for me to make the decision. Am I safe or not? Do I belong or not? Can I see myself as belonging? Can I be and embody that truth and be okay with it? Or does it feel uncomfortable in my system? Better caller, I can see the autism in your eyes. What's that mean? Forest Queen, what's a tangible way to find that love within myself? For me, I found it by making a daily commitment to myself. In mindfulness, we talk a lot about the importance of, or in Vedic sciences and in yoga and things like that, we talk about the importance of meeting yourself every single day, of having a daily practice. And some of us think, oh, we've got to have a full on yoga practice and all this other stuff. Actually, this daily practice, the most important piece to me, the foundational piece of it, is just being with yourself. And so whether you choose 5 minutes in the morning or 15 minutes another time of day, start small, but choose a certain amount of time. And every single day, spend that time with you. I encourage you, you can do lots of things in that space, but I encourage you to spend at least part of that space just listening to your breath, just listening to your heartbeat, listening to whatever emotions rise and fall, listening to the chatter in your head, not being of it, not telling a story and following all the rabbit holes, but sitting back just an inch far enough to perceive what's happening. How do we do that? Lay in bed, set a timer, and when your alarm goes off, do a 5-minute snooze. As soon as that goes off, hit the 5-minute snooze, lay your hands on your heart, feel your heartbeat, listen to your breath. And when your brain's like, oh my God, this is annoying, you just turn your attention back to your breath, back to your heart. And when you think suddenly, come on, get up, you're going to be late. You know you got that 5-minute snooze set on, right? So just go back to heart and breath, heart and breath. This builds trust. Let me plug in my phone. Oh, can it reach? I think one of the most insidious things, maybe, or difficult things, as we try to learn to meet ourselves better. How do I want to say that? Brene Brown did a study on trust, on how is trust built, how is trust built? And the result of this study was essentially that trust with other people is built in the smallest moments, right? In the little ways. It's the person who brings you home an extra ranch dressing because they know you really like it. It's the person who you can call when you feel like you have nobody else to call. It's the person who you know that you can text them once every 3 months and you guys are still best friends, right? There are things that we know about trust that are, there's a kind of consistency there, right? The availability there. Most of us are dealing with broken trust within ourselves. Most of us lack trust to some degree. If you have shoved away emotions or compartmentalized parts of your truth or yourself and tried to hide them away from the world or from yourself, or told them they're bad, or you're trying to amputate your ego, right? All of those things are ways that we break trust with ourselves. Because when anxiety comes up, or fear or sadness comes up, it just needs to be expressed. Remember, it's like a belch. It's like a fart. It just needs to be expressed because it's something out of alignment in our systems. And every time we deny it, we break trust again. Can you imagine if you trusted yourself and every emotion that you had? If you trusted your emotions to just come up and release in a safe, healthy way? What if you trusted yourself to actually just be you, really just be you? What if you trusted the world enough for you to show up authentically as you are and be feel good in that space? These are things we want to work on. These are things that require trust. That is fine, woman. Learning to find balance between in being alone and also surrounded with others. That, to me, is literally the internal feeling of being out of balance. Because I am alone. I'm me. I'm in my subjective experience. but I'm also surrounded by all of these different facets of me that are here to support me, here to guide me, here to love me, here to help me, here to defend me. But if I'm in battle or in conflict with those parts of myself, then it's going to be constant friction. It's a fight we fight every day. It becomes the war that we wage upon ourselves our entire life long. And that's exhausting. And it's painful. Thanks, Scorpio. Catching up, making sure. Yeah, just so folks know, I move with change on YouTube and TikTok. On YouTube, I do the lives on YouTube as well. So we keep our replays over there on YouTube. Every month, I haven't done it yet, but every month I go ahead and put the classes for that month away in a membership. Again, it's just a way for you guys to support me and make sure that my internet stays on so I can keep teaching. So there's an $11 a month membership if you want all of my replays. It's not just like a little bit, not just like, yeah, you get all the last 3 years of all the classes and things that have been public access. And that's a lot. There's chair yoga, there's all kinds of other classes, there's meditations, there's mudras, there's mantras, there's all kinds of stuff. You can find that on Patreon. If you want to get a coaching, you can do that too on Patreon. I am Move with Change on YouTube. So for each month, like for the month of July, you will see all the classes that we do, all the Saturday classes that we do to talk about the heart chakra. So if you have any questions about the heart chakra, feel free to make sure you come into these Saturday classes, 10 a.m. Pacific time until we feel like stopping. I do also have group coaching on Monday evenings, and we have a hour-long yoga class that will always be associated with the chakra for the month. The group coaching requires a membership level. The yoga on Wednesday evenings requires any membership level. That means you could go to Patreon and get the $5 a month one. That's just a seed sower donation level membership to help make sure things keep going. And you can access an hour-long yoga class. I had somebody in here like the other week. I was saying this, and she's like, I pay like $50 a month for a weekly yoga class. And I was like, well, now you have another option, right? Red Mama Yeti, I used to practice blocking my heart. Didn't want to hurt or be hurt. Better to be hard. A lot of us do. We learn to protect our heart, right? Because it's a sacred space. And so we learn to protect it. Our systems learn to protect it for us. In the last few years, you see the value of being hurt and open to still loving. It's a process of death and rebirth, right? To allow ourselves to be hurt and to still hold space for that sadness. And that's it. A lot of times we don't want to be hurt because we don't want to have these other things triggered again, right? How many times we might be hurt by speaking our truth? Well, at some point, maybe we'll just kind of quiet down our truth and stop speaking it. Or we get louder and more demanding that people hear our truth.